Coastal waters forecast for the KHB 32 listening area. For the following marine location, coastal waters from Englewood to Tarpon Springs out 20 to 60 nautical miles. Issued at 4:04 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Small craft exercise caution. Today, south winds around 15 knots. Seas 4 to 6 feet. Widespread showers in the morning. Scattered thunderstorms. Numerous showers in the afternoon. Tonight, south winds around 15 knots. Seas 4 to 6 feet. Numerous showers in the evening. Scattered thunderstorms. Thursday, southwest winds around 15 knots. Seas 3 to 5 feet. Numerous showers and scattered thunderstorms. Thursday night, southwest winds around 15 knots. Seas 2 to 4 feet. Numerous showers and scattered thunderstorms. Friday, west winds around 10 knots. Seas 2 to 3 feet. Numerous showers in the morning. Scattered thunderstorms. Friday night, west winds around 10 knots, then becoming north toward morning. Seas 2 feet. Scattered thunderstorms. Saturday, east winds around 10 knots, then becoming north in the late morning and afternoon. Seas 2 feet. Scattered thunderstorms. Saturday night, northeast winds around 15 knots. Seas 2 to 3 feet. Scattered thunderstorms. Sunday, northeast winds around 15 knots. Seas 2 to 3 feet. Scattered thunderstorms. Now for the official National Weather Service forecast issued 2 a.m. Wednesday, September 16, 2020 for the KHB 32 listening area. For the following counties in Florida: Hillsborough, Pasco, Pinellas, and Polk, including the cities of Newport Richey, Zephyrhills, Clearwater, St. Petersburg, Brandon, and Tampa. Today, partly sunny with scattered showers and thunderstorms in the morning, then numerous showers and scattered thunderstorms in the afternoon. Highs in the upper 80s. South winds 10 to 15 miles an hour. Chance of rain 70%. Tonight, mostly cloudy in the evening, then becoming partly cloudy. Scattered showers and thunderstorms. Lows in the upper 70s. South winds 5 to 10 miles an hour. Chance of rain 50%. Thursday, numerous showers and scattered thunderstorms. Highs in the upper 80s. South winds 10 to 15 miles an hour. Chance of rain 70%. Thursday night, partly cloudy with scattered showers and thunderstorms. Lows in the upper 70s. Southwest winds around 5 miles an hour. Gusts around 20 miles an hour in the evening. Chance of rain 50%. Friday, scattered showers and thunderstorms in the morning, then numerous showers and scattered thunderstorms in the afternoon. Highs in the upper 80s. Southwest winds around 10 miles an hour. Chance of rain 70%. Friday night, partly cloudy. Scattered showers and thunderstorms in the evening, then isolated showers and thunderstorms after midnight. Lows in the mid-70s. Chance of rain 50%. And now the extended forecast for the radio listening area. Saturday, scattered showers and thunderstorms in the morning, then numerous showers and scattered thunderstorms in the radio listening area. Highs in the upper 80s. Scattered. Chance of rain 70%. Saturday night, partly cloudy. Scattered showers and thunderstorms in the evening, then isolated showers and thunderstorms after midnight. Lows in the lower 70s. Chance of rain 40%. Sunday, isolated showers and thunderstorms in the morning, then numerous showers and scattered thunderstorms in the afternoon. Highs in the upper 80s. Chance of rain 60%. Sunday night, partly cloudy. Scattered showers and thunderstorms in the evening. Lows in the lower 70s. Chance of rain 40%. Scattered showers and thunderstorms in the morning, then numerous isolated showers and thunderstorms in the morning, then scattered showers and thunderstorms in the afternoon. Breezy. Highs in the mid-80s. Chance of rain 50%. Monday night, partly cloudy. Isolated showers and thunderstorms in the evening. Lows in the lower 70s. Chance of rain 20%. Tuesday, partly cloudy. Scattered showers and thunderstorms in the afternoon. Highs in the mid-80s. chance of rain 40%. This hazardous weather outlook is for west central and southwest Florida. Day 1, today and tonight. Thunderstorm impact. Thunderstorms are possible. Thunderstorms that develop will be capable of producing strong gusty winds, locally heavy rains, and frequent deadly lightning strikes. Coastal flood impact. Conditions will be favorable for minor nuisance coastal flooding during high tide cycles across portions of coastal Lee and Citrus counties. Rip current impact. Southerly winds and surf of 2 to 3 feet may produce dangerous rip currents along area beaches. Days 2 through 7, Thursday through Tuesday. Thunderstorm impact. Thunderstorms are possible for days 2 through 7. Thunderstorms will be capable of producing strong gusty winds, locally heavy rains, and frequent deadly lightning strikes. Coastal flood impact. On Thursday, conditions will remain favorable for minor nuisance coastal flooding during high tide cycles across portions of coastal Lee and Citrus counties. Rip current impact. On Thursday, southerly winds and surf of 2 to 3 feet may produce dangerous rip currents along area beaches. Spotter information statement. Spotter activation will not be needed today. Tide forecast. At St. Petersburg, high tide Wednesday at 1:48 p.m. Low tide Wednesday at 8:50 p.m. High rip current risk remains in effect through Thursday evening. What? Dangerous rip currents. Where? Pinellas, coastal Hillsborough, coastal Manatee, coastal Sarasota, coastal Charlotte, and coastal Lee counties. When? Through Thursday evening. Impacts. Rip currents can sweep even the best swimmers away from shore into deeper water. Swim near a lifeguard. If caught in a rip current, relax and float. Don't swim against the current. If able, swim in a direction following the shoreline. If unable to escape, face the shore and call or wave for help. The flood warning is now in effect until early Thursday afternoon. The flood warning continues for the Cypress Creek at SR 54 Worthington Gardens until Thursday afternoon. At 10 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time Tuesday, the stage was 8 feet. Flood stage is 8 feet. Minor flooding is forecast. Forecast. The river is expected to rise above flood stage just after midnight tonight to a crest of 8 feet just after midnight tonight. It will then fall below flood stage Thursday morning. Impact. At 8 feet, flooding begins at the recreation area on State Road 54. Flood history. This crest compares to a previous crest of 8.1 feet on May 29, 1976. Turn around. Don't drown when encountering flooded roads. Most flood deaths occur in vehicles. A flood warning means that flooding is imminent or occurring. All interested parties should take necessary precautions immediately. Caution is urged when walking near riverbanks. Additional information is available at www.weather.gov. The next statement will be issued Wednesday morning at 10:45 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Forecast flooding changed to minor severity and increased in duration until tomorrow evening. The flood warning continues for the Peace River at Bardo until Wednesday evening. At 10:15 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time Tuesday, the stage was 8 feet. Flood stage is 8 feet. Minor flooding is occurring and minor flooding is forecast. Recent activity. The
How's it
maximum
going,
river stage
everybody?
in the
Good
24 hours
morning.
ending at 10:15 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time Tuesday was 8 feet. Forecast. The river is expected to remain steady below flood stage early tomorrow afternoon and continue falling at flood stage. Impact. At 8 feet, private roads downstream flood. Flood history. This crest compares to a previous crest of 8.1 feet on July 18, 1991. Turn around. Don't drown when encountering flooded roads. Most flood deaths occur in vehicles. A flood warning means that flooding is imminent or occurring. All interested parties should take necessary precautions immediately. Caution is urged when walking near riverbanks. Additional information is available at www.weather.gov. The next statement will be issued Wednesday morning. The current.
How's it going, everybody? Good morning. Good morning. So where did we officially have landfall? It was Alabama. I know that. God, I gotta set up the phone and the tablet. Good morning, John. How are you? Oh boy. Sorry about the audio, guys. I'll have this set up in just a second. Oh boy. Sorry about the audio, guys. I'll have this set up in just a second. All right. Yeah, Pensacola got hit pretty hard, huh? In fact, I'm going to bring us to... We're going to check out radar scope real quick. Just take a look at the landfall area, and we're going to also check current wind speeds, stuff like that. So let's get off. Let's get to our display capture. And we'll bring it above all this text. There we go. All right. Are you guys seeing the radar scope screen? Just the single screen now that we're switching to? Let's pop the chat out. Yeah, Pensacola got hit pretty hard, huh? I'm repeating. Thank you, Haddock. Appreciate it. Yeah, so I've been watching the, the Weather Channel, different local weather sources from Florida, Alabama. I was even watching from New Orleans, trying to get some weather cameras in there and stuff. A lot of them are shut down. But we can see right now, Pensacola is really just getting into that eye wall right now. So basically that northeastern eye wall hit Pensacola. It's now just passing through Ferry Pass here, Ensley, Gonzales, all these areas leading right into the panhandle of Florida. And if I back out, we can kind of get a better idea of what we're looking at here. Here's Tallahassee getting those rain bands a couple hundred miles away from the eye of this storm, which is now, I believe it's a Category 1. Have we downgraded yet? Let's see. Yeah, Rocky, what's up, buddy? I didn't think I was going live today, but I thought we'd have a little more time into the afternoon before official landfall, but, you know, weather's an amazing thing. It does what it wants. But I'm pretty sure, if I'm not mistaken, I could go look it up right now, but I want to see if any of you guys know exactly where landfall was. I'm pretty sure it was near, oh boy, right here. Gulf Shores. Okay, so Gulf Shores, it looks like, was where landfall was, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, it hit as a 2, Salvis, absolutely. When I woke up this morning, it was 105 mile-an-hour sustained winds, and that was just after landfall. I just missed it when I woke up this morning. It was probably around 7 a.m. I thought we had more of the morning and the afternoon before landfall, but I guess not. This thing did pick up speed a little bit. But just check out some of these areas. For those of you that live in these areas, obviously, I'm sure you're not sitting in your house just watching TV right now, although you may be. But Ferry Pass, we could see Brent just got passed. Pensacola just got passed. There's going to be waves coming into that area as the eye wall breaks down. So we're going to have scattered weather within the eye. Usually the eye wall is where things calm down. But since we've made landfall, you're going to see the storm start to deteriorate, and that means the eye wall will no longer exist. We'll have a centralized low area of pressure, of course, but you won't see that perfect eye wall. You'll have storms within the eye wall. You can already see some of the weather being pulled over Foley, this area right here being pulled into the eye wall. But Pensacola, I heard, got hit pretty hard. Pace is getting hit hard right now. Baghdad. And you could just see the DBZ of rain. So that's absolute rain right there. We're talking close to 30 inches of rain in some of these places. That's what I was looking for. I want to see the rain rates that have been going on. Let's open this a little more. Here's that stuff we were talking about with Teddy. It's going to be a major hurricane by tomorrow morning. Overnight tonight, Teddy will be a major hurricane. Robin Jones, thank you so much. Very, very much appreciated. So we got Teddy here. We got a big chart here we'll keep checking in on. Just look at this. I took a snapshot of this screen before Teddy was a hurricane, so I got to take another one, but I still had Renee in here. I had Renee. So we had Teddy, Vicky, Renee, Paulette, and Sally all at once. 5 named storms. Last time that happened, what was it? 1971. 1971 was the last time we had 5 named storms at the same time. And the last time we went through all the names, we have one more to go. This would probably be Wilfred right here. Last time that happened was in 2005. For those of you that remember the 2005 Atlantic hurricane season, it was not pretty. Not fun, not pretty, not nothing. Ferry Pass, definitely taking a hit right now. Pace, Florida. Gonzales. Actually, Pace may be above the... It is, yep. Okay, so Gulf Breeze was where we had landfall. Unless someone can correct me there. I missed landfall. I was sleeping. I was hoping it would be later on this afternoon, or at least early afternoon. But we're one name away from the Greek names, Robert's girl. We got Wilfred, and then we were on to Alpha and Beta. You know, one thing that is interesting about this season, we did have a lot of storms, a whole lot of storms. Obviously, we've been through about 21 depressions right now, tropical depressions. Even though we did have landfalls, and that will bring the landfall statistic up for the United States, the major landfalls have been down, which is good. We had one major landfall this year so far, which was Laura. Sally was almost a major landfall. Last night when I went to sleep, Sally was at 80-mile-an-hour sustained winds. I wake up, and it's at 110. So it jumped up about 30 miles an hour overnight within a 6-hour period. After downgrading, if you guys remember, Sally was at 96 to 100 miles an hour Category 2 storm, approaching a high Category 2 storm. And then within one of the updates between, I believe it was 8 p.m. and 11 p.m., Sally was downgraded to 80 miles an hour again, and that's when Teddy blew up. That's out in the Atlantic. And then after that, we laid down for the night, and that was it. Sally blew up overnight right before landfall. We usually see that. We see storms blow up overnight. They say it has a lot to do with the sun, solar power of the sun affecting the storms. A lot of heat rises out of water during the nighttime. Heat rises out of the warm water of the Gulf, which allows these storms to blow up overnight without the aid of the sun. So it is something we see pretty often. We have not seen an eye wall replacement cycle with this storm, which usually means they're about to get a lot bigger, especially over open water. That eye wall replacement cycle, it'll weaken for a little bit, pull in some dry air, replace the eye wall, and then boom, it'll blow up with a whole nother wave. And we showed that wave actually on the channel. When was it? A couple days ago, we were talking about a wave that exploded out from the middle of the hurricane right before it made landfall. Let's see if we could find the video here. I believe it was this video here, the 5 p.m. We showed a very big ripple come out of the center of Sally, and it kind of like spread out all over the panhandle of Florida. It was still when it was within range of Louisiana, which is important to remember. And that wave, that shock wave went all the way through, and it was like an explosion. It looked like something literally exploded through the middle of the hurricane, and then when it was upgraded to a Category 2 within the next 20 minutes. What else we got here? Update on the rain rate chart. You can see the yellows here, 15 inches of rain. That's actually on top of what we've already had. So this chart measures the next 120 hours from present time going forward. This is not counting what's already fallen, which is close to 20 inches of rain. So picture another 15, possibly 20 inches of rain falling on the panhandle after already getting 17, 18, 19, 20 inches of rain. So again, it's not all about the size of the storm or it being a Category 2, 3, or 4. It's about the speed of the storm, which was clearly slow leading up to landfall. And now it is just spinning over certain areas that we've been watching on radar scope. That's why I really like this site, because we get a very clear view of all the little counties and stuff like that. So Ferry Pass just got hit. Pensacola just got hit. I was watching on the Weather Channel. They got some meteorologists standing out there, really got hit hard. So now we got Pace getting those really deep reds right now. Molino, Milton, Baghdad, all these areas right here are now getting that northeastern edge of the storm, which is the most powerful at this point. Usually is with all hurricanes, that northeastern quadrant. Yeah, there is another pretty significant storm even after Teddy. It's like never ending. I don't know if we're going to see a wave like we saw just recently when we see all these out here with alpha, beta, omega. I don't know if we'll be seeing that. It's definitely possible we could get another wave of perfect atmospheric conditions for these storms, because that's exactly what happened here. We got to understand the entire Atlantic Ocean was absolutely perfect for cyclone formation, and that's exactly what happened. And you could see it here. We've been going on 4 and 5 days of seeing all 4 and 5 when we had Renee, all these names in here at the same time. That is no coincidence. That's not just because, this storm wanted to form here and it was just random. It was because of all the conditions going on at once. The Bermuda Atlantic bubble, the big pressure bubble we talk about constantly in the Atlantic Ocean. The perfect timing of that is why Sally is where it is right now and not over here somewhere. Sally was projected at first to ride right up the east coast of Florida and kind of disappear into the ocean. And before we know it, this thing's curling underneath Florida and moving right into the Gulf. And now check out this. We've been following this for a couple days too. This has been a yellow invest for a long time, 10-20% chance of formation. We did know it was going to curl down and kind of affect Mexico, but now we're up to 60% chance of cyclone formation over the next 5 days. This could potentially get a name, and so could this. So we have Teddy. One of these two may become Wilfred, and then we were on to Alpha. And that will be the first time in a good 15, 16 years that we've had to use a letter from a whole new alphabet, because we've gone through the 21 names that we were given at the beginning of the season. It's unbelievable. Talk about an active season. We still have very, very dense water vapor going on with this storm. You could see that border area between the panhandle of Florida and Alabama, very covered in those deep, deep greens. That's a lot of water. That is why there's so much flooding going on. If I could show you the Weather Channel right now, I would. You got Joe Cantori standing in the middle of a lake, pretty much. You know how he does. He loves standing in the middle of water. I can't say I wouldn't. I definitely would. But we can see this is going to be a pretty long-lasting situation, and then we're going to be starting to talk about flash flooding going on in Georgia, which may already be happening in the southwestern area of Georgia right now. We can see those bands extending up through the panhandle into southwestern Georgia. And we're going to be talking about South Carolina, already getting those rain bands and clouds, probably some pretty significant storms blowing up right here. Whenever you see those little puffs, like they almost look like popcorn storms, I believe is the term they use. Those are pretty significant storms, so we could be seeing right now, in fact, we could check radar scope for that, the eastern edge of Georgia and South Carolina. Let's see if we could find a new radar to get in there. Here's one that does the border of both. Should load someday. i9 processor, whatever. So they say. We're getting there. All right, here we go. Should pop up any second. There we go. Yeah, so we are getting some of those storms on the eastern edge of Georgia. Let's see if we can get any specifics. Darien. I used to live in Darien, Connecticut. But anyway, the whole point of this is I'm just showing you that the convection, basically, that counterclockwise spin of Sally is branching off all these storms that are moving to the east coast of the U.S. and already causing lightning and thunderstorms in other places. Savannah, Georgia, starting to get some of that weather. We could see this is where these cell storms are beginning, and this is the path they're currently following. So you can see they're kind of going in all directions. That's because there's such a wish-wash of air in the atmosphere and higher upper-level winds. These storms are kind of just being shot in all different directions. But because we have that counterclockwise spin, you're going to see those bands breaking off like this, and you're going to see a northeastern movement with most of this stuff, even while Sally moves in and then bends towards this way and then out towards the eastern United States into the Atlantic Ocean. Check out back here. Pop open the chat real quick. Yeah, Salvas, you can see right down here in this corner, this is the, I can't really scroll down unless I change the actual viewing of the map, but right down here is that invest. So if it decides to roll back up, it could definitely, it could recycle itself, which is what the issue may be. Don't hold me to it, but it's possible that issue may be with Teddy, Vicky, and or Wilfred if this invest here, this disturbance number 2, decides to become a cyclone. There was a chance of Paulette actually wrapping back around and recycling itself. We could see that right here. So Paulette's still a hurricane right now. It'll turn into a tropical storm, as they say, by afternoon Thursday. Make a sharp turn to the south, and then we all know the warm water belt kind of begins right down in this area around between the 30-degree line and the 20-degree line right below where my mouse is. This is where these storms get caught up in the warm water belt and then shifted back in towards the U.S. So we may see Paulette be recycled and become another storm that heads towards the U.S., which would be not unsurprising in this year that we've had so far. Oops. Don't want to show that. That's the Weather Channel. I get in trouble for that. Trying to check of where we're going to be looking for this storm to head. At any point, if any of you guys need information on any of these storms going on, whether that's Vicky, Teddy, Paulette, just throw a comment down in the chat, and as soon as I see it, I will update you on their current status. All right, had to get a little coffee there. Coffee's going to be important today. It's hard to say if Teddy's going to be a threat directly to New York City. Of course, it's possible. Ben, it's very hard to say. We've had 21 tropical depressions. We've had 20 named storms. Wilfred will be the 21st. So, and we have until November 30th before the season is actually over. So, who knows? We could see 30 storms. We could see 25. All I know is that it has been an above average year, to say the least. And Vicky, okay, so a threat to the U.S. Yes, Vicky is a threat to the U.S. A direct threat, it's hard to say right now. Let's take a look at Vicky. So Vicky's in a similar situation to Paulette, believe it or not. And the reason I say that is because even though we have Paulette, let's bring this open, actually. So just picture Paulette up here, which is where it currently is as a hurricane. Paulette's projected to move to the east and then get shot down south very quickly. And also take a look at where Vicky's projected to go. It's supposed to become a tropical depression, which is weakening from a tropical storm that it is now. So chances are Vicky might actually fizzle out and disappear, which is kind of what we want. We don't want to deal with more than one storm at a time. That is always cause for concern and causes unneeded panic when we have two storms at once. You guys remember that? We just dealt with that recently. So long story short is we have the tropical storm here, Vicky, which will become a depression, probably fizzle out. But the point I'm trying to make is that Paulette is projected to make a southern dip. And then when we have all this mix of different storms and even the remnants of storms, that can collect together and become a storm on its own. So by the time Paulette actually recycles itself, if that's what happens, and Vicky kind of fizzling out, those two storms may combine and actually form a new invest, which would be actually outside of this invest right here, which is at 70% chance of cyclone formation over the next 5 days. So you can kind of get an idea. In fact, I could bring up the GFS chart and we could actually watch these mold together. I'll bring up the GFS and the Euro. Let those load quick. Actually, we'll load them. But yeah, we can already see we got Sally here, Paulette. This would be Teddy here. So yeah, Teddy's projected to come very close to the United States before getting whisked away, hopefully, if that's what happens. Jet stream should be pushing away Teddy once it gets close to the U.S. That is according to the GFS. Here is the European model. Teddy coming 947 millibars. That is a strong Category 4, possibly a 5 right here once the storm gets above the Lesser Antilles and Leeward Islands. That's all we need right now. Look at that, 942. That could be a Cat 5. And that's dangerously close to the United States, according to the European model, which has not been too far off this year. But look at that. Could you imagine a Category 5 or 4 right next to the Northeast of all places? Talk about the panic we've had in the Gulf. Imagine a major hurricane late in the season up by the Northeast. And then look at that movement. What is that all about? I have not seen this yet, so we're seeing this together right now. In fact, yeah, Wow is right. So check this out. This is actually new information we've got here. We are looking into the 22nd. So that's about 6 days away, so a lot of this information could change. But take a look at this movement. Tell me if this happens any sooner, we're going to have a major issue with Teddy right here. So apparently this is going to be Hurricane Teddy making its way towards the Leeward and Lesser Antilles Islands. And we can verify that with this page right here. Here is Teddy. Here's the invest behind Teddy, so we're not getting anything confused. This is Vicky, expected to fizzle out right in this area. Teddy is not supposed to fizzle out. Take a look at what Teddy's going to do. So here we are with Teddy right here. We'll backtrack, just get on the right date. Here is the 16th. So this is current time right here. Teddy, Vicky, and an invest down here. That's 70% chance of cyclone formation. You'll see that pop up. Here is Sally and Paulette. Keep an eye on Teddy. This is very important. We'll be talking about this very shortly. As soon as Sally is done causing its issues in the southeast, Teddy will take over the news. Mark my words. So we got 1,000 millibars in pressure as of right now, or as of yesterday. Right now we're under 1,000, so Teddy is officially a hurricane. It'll move up towards the Leeward Islands, Lesser Antilles, dropping in pressure constantly. That is why we're seeing the major hurricane symbol. You can see right here, within the next 24 hours, probably within the next 12 hours, Teddy will be a major hurricane, which will put it up there with Laura. And because we are looking at Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday of major hurricane buildup, we could easily see a Category 4 or 5 out of Teddy, which is interesting because Teddy is also projected to pick up the rest of the remnants of, what was it, Rena? Yes, Rena was projected to be one of those big storms, and it would just be interesting to watch Rena, or the remnants of Rena, get picked up by Teddy, so then part of Rena is in that storm Teddy, and kind of, you know, finishes its life cycle like we thought it might. But you could see Rena right there it kind of like dipped into, let's get up to current time, 16. Here's a 16th. So yeah, Rena would have been, the remnants would have been right in this area here. So it got pulled up by Teddy. Very interesting. So the GFS has it as a high category 3 by the time it's parallel with the middle of the eastern coast of the U.S. or the northeast. And then the Europeans have this thing, 941. That could be a category 5 storm up in by the northeast of the U.S. That is not too common. Let's just put it that way. Not too common at all. That's not so true. Teddy's only threat to land is not just Bermuda. Teddy can absolutely threaten the United States. Renee. Yes, Renee, not Rena. Renee was swallowed up by Teddy. Sandy, very possible it could take that movement because this is the whole point I was trying to make. So the person that said that Teddy's only threat to land is Bermuda is certainly not true. So if we back up right here, we can see Bermuda is right here. According to the current path, yes, Bermuda will get hit by Teddy, but then look at where Teddy goes after that. One more click, and it makes a hard left right into the northeast of the United States, up by Maine, and then into Canada. So as of right now, we can see this as a high Category 4, possibly Category 5 storm up near the northeast, and then it makes a hard western left turn into the United States. Now, if this hard turn happens a day sooner, we could see a major category storm getting pushed into the U.S. a lot sooner than that. You could see it jumps pressure from 941, which is very low, very, very super strong storm, to 973, which is also not a weak storm at all. And usually when we get up in this area, the surface temperature of the water and a couple feet down is usually pretty cool up in this area, but if we have the momentum of a major hurricane down in the warm waters and that momentum brings it up, we could easily see a potential significant storm in the northeast, which we have not had pretty much yet this year. Yeah, school funded. That information came out just recently. That's why it kind of surprised me too, because the momentum I've been seeing is this storm coming up and getting kicked out. And even before this, if you guys remember, this storm was supposed to come straight up into the middle and then get whisked away by this down dip we have in the jet stream coming. But now it's going to settle underneath that down dip, and it's going to have to wait for the next one, which doesn't look like happens. We got the high pressure up here, which is why the low pressure will be coming off. This is Sally right here, which is getting pushed up through the Gulf. It's going to get pushed out into the Atlantic again. Teddy's going to go right underneath it, up, and then hook into the left as of the current data. And right there is that turn. You see it come up, and then boom, right into Maine, which is similar to what Sandy did years ago. Sandy was a storm that was up in this area, and then out of nowhere just decided to make a left hook right into New Jersey, pretty much destroying areas like Seaside and stuff like that. That was years ago now, 2011, 2012, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, the water vapor here is pretty significant with this storm. Very significant, actually. Yeah, I did too, Dexter. I got hit by Sandy. Let's see if I can get a little closer here on this chart. We can get this one going too, actually. So let's move in on one of these, even though we have radar scope to do that with. In fact, you know what? We'll do that. We'll keep radar scope for close-in views because it's easier. So you can see all these green boxes here on radar scope. These are all flash flood warnings and watches that are going on. And rightfully so. Let's get our radar chart back. K-Mob. K-Mob in Alabama. I would like that to be my radar site name. K-Mob. How about B-Mob? In fact, you know what? Some of these red ones might not work too well. Actually, they are major radar sites. The more you zoom out with this site, you get the major ones first, and then if you look in this area, you see like Arkansas here. There's not many radars, but once you zoom in, you see them start popping up as you get closer. These are smaller scale. But yeah, check out that rotation. We got a lot of rotation going on with this storm clearly. And this is a very good view of what's going on in these areas right now. So we got Foley, Gulf Shores, Alberta. Gulf Shores almost on the back western edge of the eye wall now. So we are a good 7, 8, 9, almost 10 a.m. So we're about 3 hours into landfall now. Now, for those of you that don't know this, landfall is not when that front first edge of the eye wall hits land. The eye wall, the actual landfall is when the perfect diameter or the exact middle of the eye wall passes over. So wherever the middle of the eye wall is, when it crosses land is where landfall is. So technically Gulf Shores was the landfall, even though it's a little bit to the east of the center of the eye. We can kind of see the center of the eye makes landfall about right here in this area instead, Orange Beach. So technically I would say only because Gulf Shores is more of a known place than Orange Beach, that's the reason they're saying Gulf Shores, or because it was an angle that came up this way, so technically it hit Gulf Shores first rather than Orange Beach. But I would say an equal landfall between Orange Beach and Gulf Shores. That is what I'm sticking to. In fact, I would even call it more of an Orange Beach landfall, which really doesn't matter because we're talking a matter of a couple miles, if that. But pretty good forecasting with this storm beforehand as far as where it would land. I know there was some confusion about whether it was going to hit west and kind of affect New Orleans. Of course, we don't want that. We don't want these to affect anywhere. But New Orleans definitely did not need a soaker of a storm. And neither did any of these areas, to be honest. But after that adjustment where we learned that the storm would actually move to the east and make more of a Mississippi, Alabama landfall, after that, the tracks got pretty tight, and we knew where this thing was going, considering the slow speed it was moving at. If you guys remember, we got down to about 1.5 miles an hour, which is pretty crazy for a hurricane. And that is why we saw that jump from 80 miles an hour up to 110 again overnight. Again, once that sun goes down, a lot of energy from the ocean decides to release and move up into the atmosphere, and that absolutely aided in the storm. And I remember listening to a video that was specifically talking about how hurricanes kind of blow up overnight. It's this known phenomena that has answers to it, but there's still a lot that we don't understand about why hurricanes or typhoons or cyclones, which are all the same thing, by the way, just in different parts of the world, why they strengthen in the overnight hours. So it's kind of a double-edged sword. You don't want to go overnight, have a hurricane blow up, and then hit you that next morning because it's a bigger hurricane, but you also don't want to get hit in the middle of a night with a hurricane. That's no fun. Check out what we have going on in the warm water belt of the United States. So we have 93C out south of Hawaii. We have Carina out in the Pacific Ocean, parallel with the Baja region of Mexico. We have 90L, which is currently affecting that Gulf part of Mexico, which we watched form near Texas. We are currently watching Sally, of course, Category 1 storm now. We have Teddy, which is a Category 2, moving its way up to the middle of the Atlantic Ocean towards Bermuda, and then possibly a left turn into the northeast of the United States. Let's hope not. We have Paulette, which may be recycled back down into the Atlantic Ocean, Paulette is currently a Category 2 storm. We have 99L, which is an invest that popped up near, oh boy, Ireland, in the eastern part of the Atlantic Ocean, the northeastern part of the Atlantic Ocean. We'll take a look at that. And then, of course, we have Vicky and 98L, which may become Wilfred, the last name of the 21 names for the 2020 Atlantic hurricane season. Simply amazing that we've gone through all those names. And if you guys remember the beginning of the season, we went through many names. Every name we had, every name storm that formed was another broken record as far as that letter forming that early in the season. Just throwing this on really quick.
Time is 9:22 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. The tropical weather outlook issued by the National Hurricane Center in Miami. Issued at 7:11 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. For the North Atlantic, Caribbean Sea, and the Gulf of Mexico, the National Hurricane Center is issuing advisories on Hurricane Paulette, located several hundred miles south-southeast of Cape Race, Newfoundland, on Hurricane Sally, centered inland near Gulf Shores, Alabama, on recently upgraded Hurricane Teddy, located over the central tropical Atlantic, and on Tropical Storm Vicky, located over the eastern tropical Atlantic. An area of low pressure over the southwestern Gulf of Mexico is producing showers and thunderstorms that have become a little better organized during the past several hours. Upper-level winds are forecast to gradually become more conducive for development, and a tropical depression could form late this week or over the weekend, while the low meanders over the southern Gulf of Mexico for the next several days. Formation chance through 48 hours, medium, 40%. Formation chance through 5 days, medium, 60%. Showers and thunderstorms continue in association with an area of low pressure located a few hundred miles south-southeast of the Cabo Verde Islands. Environmental conditions are conducive for development of the system, and the tropical depression is likely to form during the next few days while the system moves generally westward at 10 to 15 miles an hour. Formation chance through 48 hours, medium, 50%. Formation chance through 5 days, high, 70%. A non-tropical area of low pressure is located over the far northeastern Atlantic Ocean a few hundred miles northeast of the Azores. This system could acquire some subtropical characteristics while it moves southeastward and eastward at about 10 miles an hour during the next few days. For more information on this system, see high seas forecast issued by Meteo France. Formation chance through 48 hours, low, 20%. Formation chance through 5 days, low, 20%. River statement for the KHB 32 listening area. Peace River at Zilpho Springs and Arcadia remains in action stage. Field observed forecast 8 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Location STG daytime Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Peace River, Arcadia at ASR 70 11 10.3. Tuesday 10 p.m. 10.4 10.6 10.6 10.3 10. Zilpho Springs at 16 15.4. Tuesday 10 p.m. 15.3 15.1 14.8 14.4 13.8. Due to recent rainfall in the river basin, the Peace River remains in action stage. This is a
That was a
tropical
lot
weather
of
bulletin from
numbers.
the National Hurricane Center, issued at 4:54 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. At 4 a.m. Central Daylight Time, or 0900 UTC, the center of the eye of Hurricane Sally was located in Air Force Reserve Hurricane Hunter aircraft and NOAA Doppler weather radars near latitude 30.1 north, longitude 87.7 west. Sally is moving toward the north-northeast near 3 miles an hour, 6 kilometers per hour. A north-northeastward to northeastward motion at a slightly faster forward speed is expected later today and tonight, followed by a faster northeastward motion on Thursday. On the forecast track, the center of Sally will approach the northern Gulf Coast this morning and make landfall in the hurricane warning area later today. Sally is then expected to move inland across southeastern Alabama tonight. Recent data from an Air Force Reserve reconnaissance aircraft and a mobile Alabama Doppler weather radar indicate that maximum sustained winds are near 105 miles an hour, 165 kilometers per hour with higher gusts. Some slight increase in strength is possible before the center of Sally's eye makes landfall later this morning. Rapid weakening is expected after landfall occurs. Hurricane force winds extend outward up to 40 miles 65 kilometers from the center, and tropical storm force winds extend outward up to 125 miles 205 kilometer. A sustained wind of 98 miles an hour 157 kilometers per hour and a gust to 116 miles an hour 187 kilometers per hour were recently measured by an elevated nose co-op observing station in Fort Morgan, Alabama. A University of Florida weather tower located at Gulf Shores, Alabama, reported a sustained wind speed of 75 miles an hour, 121 kilometers per hour, and a gust to 93
Sorry
miles
about
an
that.
hour,
Gulf Shores is
150
still getting
kilometers per
70 mile
hour.
an hour sustained winds.
NOAA buoy
Here, let me turn off this NOAA thing
42012,
real quick.
located about 50 miles southeast of Mobile, Alabama, recently reported a sustained wind of 71 miles an hour, 115 kilometers per hour, and a pressure of 970.9 millibars.
So if you guys heard that, we have Gulf Shores, which has already been through one half of the hurricane, the first half. We are now looking at 70-plus mile an hour winds on the back end of Sally. So let's display capture this and let's take a look. We can read wind speed pretty well with this. I'm not seeing how Gulf Shores is still getting 70 mile an hour winds. There could be gusts. It's definitely possible. So we have Gulf Shores right here. This is technically where they said landfall was. Gulf Shores, Orange Beach, both very similar, but technically, I'm going to tell you guys something right now. Technically, landfall is happening right now. So if you could see, we are basically, half that eye wall is over land, is crossed the threshold of land. That is landfall right there. So I will not be surprised if landfall, the official landfall that goes down in history, is going to be technically Orange Beach. It could be Gulf Shores. I'm not going to debate this all day, although I might. You know what? I'm going to debate this. I think it's been an Orange Beach landfall, even though Gulf Shores is where the Weather Channel is, and you know where they're stationed and stuff like that. So they may name Gulf Shores as the landfall, but it's Orange Beach. Sorry, Weather Channel. If you moved over one more pier, you would have gotten it right. I love the Weather Channel. Yes, Aries. That is very true. We were just talking about that, actually. In fact, Aries, you're going to love this. You ready? Well, look at the new information we have with Teddy, and look where Teddy goes. Pretty interesting. So here's the GFS putting Teddy just off the east coast of the United States. That's the GFS, but look at the Europeans have this thing as a Category 5. I'll go over this for Aries again. We'll go over this a few times throughout the stream. So we got Teddy down here. We got Sally, which is already doing its thing. So as we move forward, you see Teddy move up over top the Leeward Lesser Antilles, parallel with Florida now, moving in towards Bermuda. Looks like it clips Bermuda, hooks up into the northeast, and then watch this next frame right here. Basically hooks a left turn right into Maine as a high category 4, may make landfall as a 2 or a 3. Chester Wolf, thank you so much. Very much appreciated, my friend. Yes, Aries, how weird is that? And if this left turn happens, if it does happen this way, let's just say we're working with the data we have right now. We all know that follow these storms. We know that things change pretty often, and it's very important to not make these predictions anything like 5 days. I don't make predictions really anyway, if you guys haven't noticed that. That's a mistake a lot of the weather channels make, is trying to predict things. It's not safe. I mean, you know, you're allowed to do what you want here on YouTube for the most part. I just don't like controlling people's lives or having any sort of, how do I put this? I don't want to tell people to do anything they don't want to do. I don't want to be a source of direction. I kind of like putting the info out there for you and letting you know how serious situations can be. Local evacuation stuff, that's all on the individual to decide on. That includes me. And we could see the storm did strengthen just upon landfall, which, like I'm saying, is basically right now half that eye wall has officially crossed land. So 50% of the eye wall is now on land, and it's the center of the eye wall, which is technically what landfall is. And we can debate this all day, and we might. Is it Gulf Shores? Is it Ocean Beach? What do you think? Logan, thank you so much, my friend. Yeah, 50% chance is fair for Teddy, if that's what we're talking about. Definitely Teddy. Teddy could be our first Cat 5. I don't want to jump the gun on Teddy, but Teddy is definitely in the right part of the Atlantic Ocean for this time. Let's look at Teddy up close. I mean, just check this out. So Teddy is... It's not too often you see the cone of uncertainty predicting a major hurricane, but you see the letter M there for major, H is for hurricane, and then we have the D for depression, and S for storm, tropical storm. This is already well ahead of a tropical storm. We are looking at a soon-to-be major hurricane with Teddy shooting straight towards the United States, with the only turn coming. Actually, that's not true. The turn begins after Bermuda. It looks like as of right now, the eastern edge of Teddy will hit Bermuda, or at least affect Bermuda, and then it's going to curl off this way. And then on the last day of data that we have a dramatic left turn right into the state of Maine in the United States. Of all places, you know, it wouldn't surprise me if that's how we not end hurricane season, but end a long stretch of named storms by having one randomly, not only randomly, but one of the strongest storms we may see this year going up right towards the United States, especially the Northeast. It's just, what else can we handle in this year? It's amazing how resilient people are, right? Like, if you would have told us, 2 years ago we'd be dealing with all this stuff within 1 year, or all within a year, a lot of people would not believe that. Or they would be convinced that they would not be able to handle it, but here we are. Very resilient people. Yes, we have 3, maybe 4 storms brewing, actually. Sorry about that. I had my mic off and I had no clue. No idea. Let's see what we got. Could reach Greek alphabet as early as today. Yes, it's very true. The last name of the 21 names given to us this year may be up today. And we can see that. Let's look at it. So we have one letter to go, and that's letter W, which would be Wilfred. More than likely will be this invest right here. Disturbance number 2, 70% chance of cyclone formation over the next 5 days. 50% chance coin flip over the next 48 hours. Logan, thank you so much again. I'll be here if you want to come back, buddy. You know, I've wondered about that myself, Blazed. Why not X, Y, and Z? I know the Pacific Ocean, they use those letters, I believe, sometimes. I've seen Xavier. I've seen even Zelda. Walk in Truth, how are you? It's possible. It's very possible. Now that we're looking at the current info or the current data for Teddy, Teddy's kind of scaring the U.S. right now. We got Teddy right here. 100-mile-an-hour sustained winds. Probably going to be a major hurricane within the day. I would say within the next 8 hours, probably sooner. We could see Teddy become a major hurricane, and then it makes a sharp left turn into Maine after it makes it up and curls around Bermuda. It moves up in this direction, and then on the last day, it goes right like this. From 940 millibars to 970 by the time it hits Maine. Yeah, Walk in Truth. Check this out. I'll show you again real quick. I'll be showing this throughout the day, definitely. So we'll set it up for today, which is the 16th. So we got Sally here. We got Teddy, Paulette, and obviously Vicky. And then we have the invest down here, which could be Wilfred, but keep an eye on Teddy. And we'll walk through this here. So it goes above the Leeward Lesser Antilles Islands to a 947 pressure. That could be a Category 4 right there within the next day. And we have this to match it up to. So we could see the major hurricane within a day. Thursday, early morning, overnight tonight, basically. And you can see the 947 pressure. We move up, curls around Bermuda as a high Category 4, possibly a 5 parallel with Chesapeake Bay at that point, and then hugs a hard left turn into Maine, which could just as easily be New York if this happens about 8 hours sooner. Unreal, right? And for such a strong storm to make it up this high is pretty significant. So just look at that turn right there. Renee, thank you so much. Very, very much appreciated. Let's see, that could be the 22nd. So we could be anywhere between the 21st, I want to say, and the 24th. So I'm giving that 4-day range there only because the storm may slow down. It may speed up. These things are really never on specific time with a prediction this far out. But the main concern is not so much the timing. For some people maybe, but for me it's that significant left-turn movement into the United States based on a high pressure coming down from the North Atlantic. Usually we have that movement, the west to east flow, which brings these storms up and then out, but sometimes they come up and in. We've seen it happen with Sandy. If you guys have watched the show House of Cards, there's an entire episode about a hurricane that's about to hit the East Coast. Unless money is paid back to FEMA that was taken out for a jobs program. And if the president does not return that money, we may have a disaster. He returns the money, hurricane disappears. Very good TV, I must say. Let's see where the updated plots are as far as where this thing's going to go. All right, so yeah, trajectory is pretty much stationary at this point. A lot of these models are very tight together, very in agreement, except for when we get about 400 to 500 miles inland. We see some of these dumping this storm back off into right where it started. So think about this for a second. So this info right here, the spaghetti plots, especially this UK X2 one right here, this literally puts Sally right where it began and where it formed to begin with. If you remember, Sally formed right here, moved this way, underneath Florida, up here, and then came straight up like this. So it may recycle itself right back into the Bahamas. And if you guys remember, I hope some of you remember because it was about 5 minutes ago, this storm may dip down into here as Teddy's coming up, which is supposed to be, here's Bermuda. This little speck right here is Bermuda. Teddy's supposed to come up like this and like that. So we may see an interaction between the remnants or the remainder of Sally out here once it hooks down, or even if it follows the HMNI model right here and brings us out to this area, Teddy could sweep this right up and it could be part of Teddy. Wouldn't that be interesting? Recycled storms is always very interesting because of the movements. They all have individual movements. Yeah, Sally's not going anywhere for a little bit. And now that we've looked at the spaghetti plots, let's get rid of this stuff real quick. I got way too many tabs open. So we got the NOAA radio. That's a lot of storms, Joshua. So we're at what? We're at 21 right now. We've had 21 depressions. In fact, let's look this up real quick. 2020 Atlantic hurricane season. I'm almost positive it's 21 depressions we've had, even though we've had 20 names. We've had 21 depressions, only one not named, and that's right. So total storms, we've had 20 so far, 21 depressions, 8 hurricanes, 1 major hurricane, soon to be 2 with Teddy. 120 fatalities this year. That's not good. And here's Laura, our last significant storm, 150 mile an hour sustained winds. 937 millibars. That was a high Category 4. If you guys remember, we were about 5 miles an hour off of being a Category 5. Some stations even saying that we did reach that Category 5 strength. Very interesting information. So, just to give you an idea and to look at the information we've been through this season, just check this out. And it gives you the months too. So we began this season, even though the season begins in June, we started in May. So we had storms in May, June, July. So you can see here Arthur, Bertha, Cristobal. Cristobal was really our first major, significant talked about storm, even though Arthur was in the news because of how early it formed in May. And then we really didn't get much of anything that was specifically bothersome until Gonzalo and Hannah and then Isaias, remember? And that's when we had Tropical Depression 10 that was unnamed. This is the only tropical depression we had that did not turn into a tropical storm, which is then given a name once it reaches that status of tropical storm. So we've had 20 tropical storms, 21 depressions, and 8 hurricanes. That's a lot. And we still have all of October, all of November to go, and about half of September as we await the last name, which would be Wilfred, which will be probably right under Vicky here somewhere. And it's interesting. It's certainly going to go down as one of the busiest hurricane seasons we've ever had. We'll be talking about this right along with 2017 and 2005. That's where a lot of your names are coming from with the retired hurricane list. But just, it seems like the season went by so quick, but yet it's been a very long season. We've had a lot going on, always something going on to talk about with this season. And then, of course, add the pandemic and the fires going on the West Coast, which is just a whole other beast on its own. But we're just tracking through all these storms right now. In fact, I'm curious to see the money damage for Laura now. They usually update that every couple days. Where's Laura? So we have Laura Cat 4 here. Laura Cat 4. They usually have the individual amount of money caused. Total damage, $17.235 billion. That's all the storms put together today. Will any storm or hurricane hit New Orleans in 2020? That's a hard prediction. We don't have anything near there yet. I mean, the closest one was obviously Sally over the last 2 days. Almost made landfall in New Orleans, but yes, we are very much just sitting still right now. In fact, let's see how fast it actually is moving. 3 miles an hour north-northeast. So we've made that hook. We're moving north-northeast. So it's a slight movement to the east and mostly north at 3 miles an hour. All right, let's see here. We'll hit refresh. Pretty much the same invest as I've been seeing. We've got the one, someone just asked about this invest down by Mexico. This actually formed just off the coast of Texas in the Gulf, basically, and the momentum at the time brought this thing down, but it has actually risen in potential cyclone formation percentage. So you can see here 48 hours, 40%. 60% over the next 5 days. So this could easily take a name. And obviously we have the 70% disturbance down here, which is closer to the equator and the warm water belt off the west coast of Africa. This could very well be Teddy. So we could see, or Wilfred, I'm sorry, this could be Wilfred. And then we could see Alpha right here, or Wilfred Alpha Beta. We could see the first two names of the Greek alphabet sooner than later. I don't think this guy up here will be much of an issue. The reason it's an invest is because of the momentum going on in the Bermuda Atlantic, all these storms going on. Why wouldn't there be one right here? In fact, we can look at, I can zoom out of this chart and we can get a much better idea. Let's do that. I want to see this area. So we'll go to global sector and we'll just look at the entire top half of the globe, and you can see we got a lot of stuff going on. So here is that invest down in the Gulf. We'll just match them up one by one so you guys know where we are. So we're looking at this first one here, which is right here, this mess. This is obviously Sally near the Panhandle of Florida. And here is Teddy. Paulette. There's Paulette. We were waiting for it to load. So we got Paulette, Teddy, Vicky, invest, Sally, invest. And then here's that other invest up here. And the reason I don't think this is going to do anything is just check out the momentum of it currently. It's kind of widening, I guess you could say, which a lot of storms do because of the cooler air up here. And then it usually hits Ireland as a spread out storm. It's an invest because it's got the consolidation of a lot of those storms together. So you can see it's its own entity right here, 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 and here. This is why it's an invest. Basically, that's what I'm trying to answer it. If we get this going a little quicker, you can get a better idea of the movement going on. And we get it really quick, beginning of the day. And just look how these systems peel off and just form into other systems. It's just absolutely incredible to watch, especially when you have a lot of activity going on. A lot of times, guys, we look at this ocean and it is bare. There's nothing going on. It's boring. You know, you're looking for stuff to talk about, and this is like a weather chaser's dream right here. Of course, not the bad situations being caused to people by these storms, but the fact that there are storms and things to look at and study is pretty incredible, and there's a lot going on. Paulette, I believe, is a Category 1, and Teddy is a 2. Let's check it out. So we got Paulette. Paulette is a Category 2, 100 miles an hour. We have passed that 96 mile an hour mark. And we got Teddy, also 100 miles an hour. So 85 knots, 976 in pressure, 966 in pressure. So Paulette, technically right now, the stronger of the two storms. Teddy will be the stronger of the two, though. Very shortly, as a matter of fact. Teddy is going to be a pretty big storm. Thanks, Karen. I walk fast, too. I just saw that. That was pretty funny. I'll show you right now, Buckshot. So we got the European model, and we got the GFS model. So I'll back up the GFS first to today, which is the 16th. And we'll get an idea of what to expect with the Carolinas. I don't know. Teddy is absolutely capable of hitting anywhere from Florida to the northeast because of the trajectory it's going. I don't want to make any predictions on that because it looks like Teddy's going to flow up around Bermuda and then hook into Maine as of now. So that puts the Carolinas out of risk. But moving forward, let's just check this out. So we got Sally We got Paulette up here, which should be a non-issue unless it recycles itself. So we have Teddy and then invest under Teddy to really worry about going forward. So let's move forward. You can see Teddy comes over the Lesser Antillean Leeward Islands. If anything, Sally's going to affect the Carolinas by coming through the U.S. and then over top. Obviously, as a weaker system than what we're dealing with right now in the Panhandle and Alabama. So it could be a system that passes over you from west to east, or if you're talking about Teddy, Teddy could become a threat by about, here's Saturday, here is Sunday. So I'd say by Monday we will know for sure if Teddy's going to be a threat to the Carolinas. Of course, just based off of the size of this storm, if it makes it to this size by the time it gets anywhere near the Carolinas, we will have direct effects as far as minor storm surge and waves, depending on how close it gets to the coast before making that left hook into Maine, which it shows, at least on the European model. On the GFS, it shows it hooking up around Bermuda, still clearly affecting the wave heights and the what do they call those things? The rip currents. We're going to have a lot of rip currents around the Outer Banks in the Carolinas and then going up towards Chesapeake Bay. Even if this storm stays out by Bermuda, we're still going to have those effects based on the size of it. So as we move forward with the GFS, by Wednesday, it's kind of parallel or just above Chesapeake Bay, by New Jersey, parallel off the coast well. And then 954, 951 still strengthening as it moves up towards Nova Scotia, which is pretty interesting. Hurricanes do not usually strengthen once they get up to the northeast. In fact, they usually weaken based on the temperature of the water. But we can clearly see, according to the GFS, Teddy is going to not only explode once into a major hurricane by the Leeward Islands, but it's going to threaten the U.S. and Bermuda and then become an even stronger storm as it nears the areas of Canada that branch off around the United States. That is pretty interesting. Look at this. So according to the GFS, it hits the 940 pressure area after the threshold of the U.S., kind of crossing that Canadian border into the Atlantic. And then the European model has a different idea. Same idea with the immediate future, but a much stronger storm at 942 millibars, probably a Cat 4 or 5 at this point, even on approach to the U.S. A little bit of a closer hook towards the Chesapeake Bay, I said, so this will definitely affect the Carolinas, the Outer Banks as far as wave height and rip currents and storm surge and stuff like that. But direct effects more than likely will not be felt until we have data after Sunday and Monday, and then we'll have a better idea on this Tuesday. But you can see the 943 pressure, very strong storm, drops to 941, even more of a strong storm, and then boom. That left hook into Maine, that could happen a little more shallow. It could be a Rhode Island, Long Island type landfall. It could happen after. I don't want to make any sort of predictions with this yet. This is just the data we have on hand for right now. But certainly worth watching and paying attention to because we have not had a storm that's really shown a lot of threat to the Northeast, at least this year, even with how busy the season's been. Euro is a very good model. In fact, I mean, I've used each model over time, and they each have their moments. You know, it's just like anything else. You know, like sports predictors. You know, you pick a team before the season starts to get to the playoffs or something like that. Just like these models, I mean, some of them are hit or miss. Some of them are dead on, and some of them are way, way off. But you notice as these storms get closer to landfall, they all do start to agree with each other. So over time, they do start agreeing. But seeing Teddy with that common idea of moving up to the Northeast is not good. I don't like the look of that right now. So we got to see what happens and just keep an eye on it. It seems like we've had a landfall of one storm and then right after that another storm to follow, which is very reminiscent of 2017. Right after Harvey, things blew up on YouTube with storm watchers and watching hurricanes and stuff like that. Because then we had Irma, Maria, Nate, Katia, all those storms all at once. 10 hurricane named storms, major hurricanes in a row. I've been hearing little bits about this comet or meteor. Where's it at? We can't even see it yet. How do we know it's there?
Inside the eastern portion of Sally's Eye. The estimated minimum central pressure based on the buoy data is 965 millibars, 28.50 inches. This is a tropical weather bulletin from the National Hurricane Center, issued at 4:34 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. At 5 a.m. Atlantic Standard Time, or 0900 UTC, the eye of Hurricane Teddy was located near latitude 15.8 north, longitude 49.0 west. Teddy is moving toward the northwest near 12 miles an hour, 19 kilometers per hour. This general motion is forecast to continue for the next few days. Maximum sustained winds have increased to near 100 miles an hour, 155 kilometers per hour with higher gusts. Some strengthening is forecast during the next few days, and Teddy is likely to become a major hurricane later today and could reach Category 4 strength on Thursday. Hurricane force winds extend outward up to 25 miles 35 kilometers from the center, and tropical storm force winds extend outward up to 175 miles 280 kilometers. The estimated minimum central pressure is 976 millibars, 28.82 inches. These are the 9 a.m. observations for the local area on Wednesday, September 16th. At Tampa International, it was partly sunny. The temperature was 80 degrees, the dew point 73, and the relative humidity 79%. The wind was southeast at 9 miles an hour. The pressure was 29.95 inches and rising. At St. Pete Clearwater Airport, it was mostly sunny. The temperature was 81 degrees, the dew point 78, and the relative humidity 91%. The wind was southeast at 13 miles an hour. The pressure was 29.94 inches and rising. At downtown St. Petersburg, it was mostly sunny. The temperature was 80 degrees, the dew point 78, and the relative humidity 94%. The wind was southeast at 14 miles an hour. The pressure was 29.92 inches and rising. At Lakeland, it was sunny. The temperature was 79 degrees, the dew point 75, and the relative humidity 89%. The wind was southeast at 7 miles an hour. The pressure was 29.96 inches and steady. Elsewhere around the region at Fort Myers, it was sunny with a temperature of 79. It was mostly sunny with a temperature of 80 at MacDill Air Force Base and 80 at Punta Gorda. It was partly sunny with a temperature of 81 at Kissimmee, 80 at Orlando, and 80 at Sarasota Bradenton Airport. It was cloudy with a temperature of 78 at Brooksville and 79 at Winter Haven. Marine reports along the coast and offshore buoys. At the Seaman site at Cedar Key, winds were southeast at 15 knots. Air temperature 78 degrees. At the Seaman site at Venice, winds were southeast at 8 knots. Sea temperature 83 degrees. Air temperature 80 degrees. At 100 miles west of Bayport, winds were southeast at 21 knots. Wave heights 9 feet. Wave period 6 seconds. At 210 miles west of Captiva, winds were south at 19 knots. Sea temperature 85 degrees. Wave height 7 feet. Wave period 6 seconds. Your coastal waters forecast for the KHB 32 listening area for the following marine location, Tampa Bay waters. Issued at 4:04 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Today, south winds around 15 knots. Bay and inland waters a moderate chop. Scattered thunderstorms. Numerous showers in the afternoon. Tonight, south winds around 15 knots. Bay and inland waters a moderate chop. Scattered thunderstorms. Thursday, southwest winds around 15 knots. Bay and inland waters a moderate chop. numerous showers and scattered thunderstorms. Thursday night, southwest winds around 10 knots. Bay and inland waters a light chop. Scattered thunderstorms. Friday, southwest winds 5 to 10 knots, then becoming west around 15 knots in the afternoon. Bay and inland waters a moderate chop. Numerous showers and scattered thunderstorms. Friday night, northwest winds around 10 knots, then becoming northeast around 5 knots toward morning. Bay and inland waters a light chop. Scattered thunderstorms. Saturday, northeast winds around 5 knots, then becoming northwest around 10 knots in the afternoon. Bay and inland waters a light chop. Scattered thunderstorms. Numerous showers in the afternoon. Saturday night, northeast winds around 15 knots. Bay and inland waters a moderate chop. Scattered thunderstorms in the evening, then isolated thunderstorms after midnight. Sunday, northeast winds around 15 knots. Bay and inland waters a moderate chop. Scattered thunderstorms. Numerous showers in the afternoon. This hazardous weather outlook is for west central and southwest Florida. Day 1, today and tonight. Thunderstorm impact. Thunderstorms are possible. Thunderstorms that develop will be capable of producing strong gusty winds, locally heavy rains, and frequent deadly lightning strikes. Coastal flood impact. Conditions will be favorable for minor nuisance coastal flooding during high tide cycles across portions of coastal Lee and citrus counties. Rip current impact. Southerly winds and surf of 2 to 3 feet may produce dangerous rip currents along area beaches. Days 2 through 7, Thursday through Tuesday. Thunderstorm impact. Thunderstorms are possible for days 2 through 7. Thunderstorms will be capable of producing strong gusty winds, locally heavy rains, and frequent deadly lightning strikes. Coastal flood impact. On Thursday, conditions will remain favorable for minor nuisance coastal flooding during high tide cycles across portions of coastal Lee and citrus counties. Rip current impact. On Thursday, southerly winds and surf of 2 to 3 feet may produce dangerous rip currents along area beaches. Spotter information statement. Spotter activation will not be needed today. A marine weather statement for the following marine locations: coastal waters from Englewood to Tarpon Springs out 20 nautical miles, and coastal waters from Englewood to Tarpon Springs out 20 to 60 nautical miles. Issued at 9:32 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. A marine weather statement has been issued for the following areas: coastal waters from Bonita Beach to Englewood, Florida out 20 nautical miles, coastal waters from Englewood to Tarpon Springs, Florida out 20 nautical miles, waters from Bonita Beach to Englewood, Florida out 20 to 60 nautical miles, waters from Englewood to Tarpon Springs, Florida out 20 to 60 nautical miles.
All right, I'm back. Had to get that coffee. Oh my goodness. It's going to be a long day. Turn the display capture off. Let's get back on this. Whew. Catch my breath. All right, let's see if we still got this lined up. All right, much better. Had to adjust the audio there a little bit. Let's see what we got going on. Thanks, Miranda. Rocky Shorts, thank you, buddy. Very much appreciated. And the adjoining DED, thank you as always, my friend. You're always a huge help on this channel. You have been for a long time. Yeah, walk in truth. I'm from New York, Westchester County, New York. So I know what you're saying. Let's just put it that way. Fourth cup. I usually drink like 1 cup in the morning, and that's it for the day. I mean, I used to drink a cup, I guess, closer to 2 or 3, but I stopped that even. But today, oof. Teddy looks like it's going north, but not near land, but it's a monster. Angel of God, check this out. You ready? So we got the European and the GFS model. I just went over this a little while ago, but I'm going to be doing it throughout the day. Take a look at what Teddy does according to the Europeans. So, Sally, here's Teddy, here's Paulette. We'll just focus on Teddy for now. But moving forward, drops to a very strong Category 4 storm possibly, heading right towards the Outer Banks and then makes that hook around Bermuda, parallel with Chesapeake Bay by the 22nd as a strong Category 4, maybe a 5. And then look at that left-hand turn it makes right into Maine between the 22nd Tuesday and the 23rd on Wednesday. So that is about 5 to 6 days from now, right on that edge of where you really want to make predictions with cyclones, which I don't like making ever, unless it's a guarantee. But when you see something like a strong Category 4 moving up to the northeast, that is cause for concern. And not only that, but the GFS is showing something very similar, minus that left-hand hook. The only thing that the GFS is showing is that the storm is going to strengthen as it moves up into the northeast. So check this out. So we're at, according to the GFS, we're at 960 millibars as we're approaching Bermuda, and it drops. The storm gets stronger as it gets pulled out into the Atlantic. That's incredible. That is a strong, strong storm to have. 944 millibars in pressure to have this far north in the Atlantic. That's super rare right there. That is not something you see too often. No, I don't trust any of the models. I basically go through all the info that they all offer and kind of find an average, especially when we're tracking a specific storm. The reason I'm showing this is because we're within that 5-6 day grace period. Anything within a week is worth showing, but predicting is not something I do. I'm showing you the possibilities of this storm and the basic trajectory. For the most part, we are going to see Teddy move in this direction. It may not be these exact movements. It may not hook just around Bermuda and make that left hook into Maine. It may not get stronger as it passes the northeast of the United States. But this is the basic direction we're going to see. We're going to see a western movement and then a stop, a hook, and then an eastern movement one way or another, whether it makes some little ins and outs on the way to it. We have a basic direction, but what we need to really focus on now is the fact that not only the GFS, which actually shows this storm being weaker than projected. So the GFS is actually predicting this storm to be weaker than the European model. The European has this as a high Category 4 or 5, even on the approach to the United States, let alone when it gets up into the middle of the country and then makes that western turn into Maine. The GFS is actually downgrading this storm as a smaller category hurricane than the Europeans are. But we also have the Navy model, and we also have the CMC Canadian model, which we can look at too if you would like. We'll bring up the CMC. We'll let that load for a minute. We can get rid of the spaghetti plots for now. This is Paulette. This is the trajectory of Paulette. Still a hurricane, 100-mile-an-hour storm. Will become a tropical storm apparently by 2 p.m. Thursday, middle of the afternoon Thursday. And then it's going to shoot down south and then could get recycled into another system. Not out of the question. Won't make it a super hurricane, but remnants of Paulette may very well get caught up in other systems and be recycled, just like Renee was. Miranda, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. It's been a while since we did a long live stream, but they are they're needed sometimes. You know, it's a lot easier to just jump on here and get the info out in real time than it is to record a video, edit it, put it out there, hoping to catch the information before it's too old. You know, with weather information, it's very hard because after a day, most of the time the content put out is irrelevant unless it's documenting some sort of history, which I guess we're always doing. But unless it's a significant day in history, you know, chances are, you know, not many people are going to really care about that video anymore. So it's a very current, up-to-date topic that weather channels cover on YouTube. So going live, especially during a landfall, I think is important, especially just to get info out to people that don't know exactly what's going on, or, you know, get tired of hearing the same old anchors on the same old channels. But we got so much going on in the Atlantic, not just the Atlantic, also the Pacific. We have typhoons. There's a lot of stuff we can look at, but right now we're just focusing on Sally. We have basically just passed our official landfall. We're having some debate over landfall. The reason for that is because basically the definition of landfall, a lot of people get this confused, and I myself used to do this, but when you have a hurricane, you have the eye wall. A lot of people believe that, you know, I'll just hit pause here for a second and back up one track. So we have the eye wall here. A lot of people believe once that top part of the eye wall hits land, that is called landfall. Technically, it's a landfall. Yes, the eye wall is hitting landfall, but they don't measure where landfall is until half that circle or half the eye wall is over land. So you can look at this chart, and we'll look at the most recent data, and you're going to see a Gulf Shores landfall. So technically, this was Alabama where landfall took place. But if you look at true landfall, it almost looks like Orange Beach is more in the center when half that circle is over land. So I'm going to let radar scope reload really quick. I'll let it go to the last frame. And you can see this storm is just crawling 3 miles an hour moving north, which is unreal. So you can see the eye wall right here. So technically, we just had landfall because now we can split the diameter of this circle, and we have something right in the middle, and we have Gulf Shores and Orange Beach basically equally as a landfall. The only reason landfall would be Gulf Shores is because it's a little more north. It sticks out a little more north as the angle goes in a southwestern direction. So Gulf Shores, even though Orange Beach looks to be more in the center of the eye wall. So we can debate that all we want. Basically, it was an Alabama landfall and affected the panhandle of Florida more than anything. Louisiana catching a real break from this, thank God. The last thing they needed was another hurricane or a storm. Mississippi definitely lucking out. Gulfport got some reports of high winds, but you can see the edge of the storm is right by Gulfport. And then we have Mobile, Alabama, which I knew was going to get hit. I didn't know how much. It all depended on which side of the eye wall landed on the side of Mobile, Alabama, because we have this counterclockwise rotation. We got to understand that water is being pushed in these directions. So had the eye wall been on this side of Mobile, Alabama, this inlet here, there's a big inlet in Mobile where there's a lot of water. If the eye wall were here and the storm was spinning like this, it would have kicked all that water up into Mobile and completely flooded the area. But because the eye wall moved to the east of Mobile, that inlet was basically an area where water is being pulled out of right now, and the water is being pushed into areas like Warrington, Pensacola, obviously, Ferry Pass, Gonzales. We had a bunch of places in here we were reading off before, but that eye wall makes a huge difference. And the northeastern quadrant of these storms, it's always, if you take a line, like say, for example, we take this thing right here, this vertical, horizontal line. That's what I'm trying to say. We put an X right through the middle of the hurricane. So we have the eye here, and we have 4 quadrants. 1, 2, 3, 4. This northeastern quadrant is more times than none the strongest part of the storm based on its inertia. It's the spin of the storm, the fact that counterclockwise spin takes place in the northern hemisphere of the world. The southern hemisphere, these storms spin clockwise. And the same rules take place in the north, just mirrored in the south. And also typhoons, cyclones, and hurricanes are all the same thing. They just take place in different parts of the world and spin in different directions. All cyclones, though. But basically, that water damage has been lessened for areas like Mobile because of the eye wall. So the most important part of the storm, more times than not, like I said, is that northeastern quadrant where you can see Warrington, Pensacola, Ferry Pass, Gonzales, Milton, and all these areas here as Sally continues to move up into the U.S. So a very significant storm, lots of deep rain bands going on, and I'm going to check the current wind speeds. We'll change over to Super Res Velocity. Check out the comments as well. Let's see. My sister's in Lafayette, and she didn't have to evacuate, and she was fine. That's good. That's really good. Yeah, Teddy is going to be interesting, and not only because it's a named storm, but because, there's a lot going on in the Atlantic, a lot of people jumping on the bandwagon to report on this stuff, and because Teddy is a named storm with a name on it and a hurricane and the possibility of being major, it's going to take over the news as soon as Sally is done. The reason Sally is still in the news is because it's currently making landfall, so just like any other type of media outlet, it's basically on to the next one. For me personally, I like to make sure people know what's going on ahead of time, after things have already come and gone. It's good to stay up to date, and just you can get little bits of different information from each channel. Everyone has something different to offer, which is what's really cool about these platforms. But look at all these flash floodings going on. I'm on Radar Scope here, a app you can download and own. I believe it's $9.99. They don't sponsor me or anything like that. I'm just letting you know. There is a free version of it as well, but to get the Super Res Velocity and I guess the Super Res Base Velocity for water vapor and wind velocity, I guess you need to upgrade to this newer version. Definitely worth it, in my opinion. I'm actually thinking of downloading and buying this new software, this weather software that's coming out. I'm actually working with it now, getting used to it to see if it's worth using. I don't need anything crazy because a lot of the stuff that we use is free. And a lot of people know that. A lot of the information in radars and information we get is free. My brother is a meteorologist for the Navy, so he gives me different websites to use to get information from. And it's all basically the same. So your best Navy satellite weather and NOAA is just as good as anything out there. So it's all about the accurate data when dealing with these storms and stuff like that, especially when people want to go ahead and try to make predictions. It's very hard to make predictions with weather. It's important, obviously, that you know what's coming, to have an idea of what's coming, but I tend to stay away from those specific predictions, like a specific landfall. I'll pick a region, but more times than not, I'm updating data and relaying information for you guys. I'll throw in my opinion here and there. But when it comes to weather, it is what it is, and it's going to do what it's going to do. And every storm is different, but there are common factors, and there are ways to keep yourself safe. And that is the entire point. And living in the Northeast, you get a wide range of weather. I've been through hurricanes. I've lived in Florida. I've been through the wildfires and earthquakes in California. And I've lived and grew up in New York, so I've been through the winters and also some other hurricanes and stuff like that. So, it's nature. It's a phenomenon. Whether you believe in the climate change thing or not, it's still stuff that is happening out of our control for the most part, and we just need to adjust to it. And if you choose to live on a coastal area, that goes for anywhere in the world, basically. If you want to live on the coast near the water and have it be convenient, you're going to deal with other issues over time. And the more and more people I talk to that have either been following weather or at least lived in weather-prone states like the Southeast and stuff like that, they've all been saying, whether they're in their 50s, 60s, 70s, or in their 20s and teenagers still in school, they're saying that the weather is changing, and it's noticeable now. Now, I mean, in the last 4 years, I believe we've broken the record every year for worst fire in the West, so that's been happening for the last 4 years in a row. We've been having many more record-breaking hurricane seasons. Yes, we had 2005, but more recently, 2017 was a big deal, and obviously this year is a big deal. It's not about landfalls, and it's not about how many major hurricanes we get. It's the frequency of these storms and the season they take place in. So we are getting storms a lot earlier than we used to, and they're starting to happen a lot later, past November. into December and January sometimes, making hurricane season about a month and a half longer on each side of the timeline. So we could go start hurricane season in May and end it in December. You know, things are changing. We may see that change over time. And the more and more we get these storms and this crazy amount of intensification in the Atlantic Ocean all at once, they're going to have to start changing the way they measure things. Hey, Buck, where exactly are you? On what beach are you at? We could take a look at it on Google Earth if you want. Always great for me. You give thank you. MJ, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to help all of you. Atlantic Beach, my NOAA radio said watch out for flash flooding. Atlantic Beach, all right. Let me just throw up the screensaver here. I'm going to open up. All right, here we go. All right, can you guys all see the Google Earth view here? Are we all looking at Google Earth together? The adjoining DED, thank you again, my friend. You are far too kind. All right, cool. So we got Google Earth up here. Where did you say you were? Atlantic Beach. That's right. All right, so let's pull this up and search for Atlantic Beach real quick. All right, so I'm assuming Atlantic Beach, Florida. Maybe not. Which Atlantic Beach are you at there, buddy? Somebody wonder how crawfish season will turn out from the Hurricane Lauren. Now, Sally, it'll probably be crazy. I bet there's people that can't wait to get into the Gulf to start fishing right now. North Carolina, okay. Atlantic Beach, North Carolina. Really, you're getting flash flood warnings there, huh? Let's see. So you're basically you're kind of part of the Outer Banks-ish. I mean, I basically consider this whole strip of islands the Outer Banks. I guess it is. So wow, you're getting flash flood warnings all the way out there already, huh? Let's check it out on radar scope. Let's see if anything pops up. They're not showing much for the Carolinas right now, at least no warnings. I can always find... This one should cover where you are, Atlantic Beach. Here's the Outer Banks. This one might actually be right over Atlantic Beach, but we'll see. We'll let that load and check it out. Can you check the other system in the Gulf? Yes, absolutely, Jose. No problem. Sally will turn around and may hit North Carolina. Well, the thing with Sally is it's already heading in that direction. It's already moving in a northeastern direction. So it's not so much that it's going to turn around. It's going to continue its momentum towards the Carolinas, which is where the jet stream is more than likely going to point it. 25 minutes from Buckshot. Okay, Miranda and Buckshot are very close together in the Carolinas. So yeah, eventually you're going to be dealing with Sally as it passes over Georgia, and then it'll start affecting South Carolina, North Carolina. And then once it gets out into the ocean, if you guys remember what I was showing you before, the spaghetti plots, you know, are pretty interesting with this storm because, if I could find it, I have so many tabs open. Hey, caramba. All right, let's check out, we'll look right here. So check out the spaghetti plots real quick and just think about this. So those of you that live in North Carolina, specifically, I guess Miranda and Buckshot, you can see the Carolinas right here. And yes, the storm does go into the states. It will significantly weaken, but it will be a tropical system when it goes over you. And by over you, I mean the state of South Carolina and North Carolina. But look at the plots. A lot of these plots, some sooner than others, have this thing dipping back down in towards the Bahamas, which is exactly where this storm began its life. This storm literally started right where this spaghetti plot said it's going to go. So it's basically done a complete circle around the state of Florida, hitting every state in the process on the way and going right back to where it started. So the potential for this storm to reform and regroup itself is absolutely possible, especially with the fact that Teddy is projected to come up in this direction at the same time. So we got one storm coming this way, one coming this way. The reason that's happening is because there's a dip coming in the jet stream that's pushing this down, and as it pushes this down, the force of that is going to force this storm up, Teddy. So it's going to be like one of those like yin-yang looking things, but to see this storm come right back to where it began and where its life formed is very interesting. And Teddy's not going to be anything to mess with. Hey, caramba, yeah. Yeah, isn't that nuts? It's just wild how this storm formed right here, and this is where some of the plots are predicting it to go to, right where it formed. It's just going in a circle around Florida. And we've seen it happen before. We saw a storm in 2017. I believe it was Hurricane Jose that actually came from the west coast of Africa, came into the U.S. In fact, I'll show you. It came out of the west coast of Africa, came down here, and then was approaching the U.S. and then got pushed up by a pressure and then sat right off the northeast for about 7 or 8 days. This storm just sat here, and that was just based on a coincidence of different pressures and stuff that kind of hugged it there. So to see Sally doing a continuous movement and then repeat its process would be interesting, but it would be a coincidence that the pressures and the different forces going on around the storm steer it in that same direction where it actually came from. So you can see right here in the Bahamas where Sally came from, underneath Florida, above Cuba, into where we just experienced landfall, and now it's supposed to wrap around and come back into a full circle, which is very interesting. What do you guys think of that? Isn't that wild? Are the models not picking up the storm's potential left-hand turn? Are we talking about Teddy or are we talking about Sally? Because Teddy, yes, the European model shows Teddy making that left-hand turn into the U.S. Oh, that's interesting. All right, I'm going to open another chart here. We're going to look at some other stuff. All right, that should be working. Let's take the display off, which we did. Some of these are there. All right, wonderful. We're back to the radar and the chat. I lived in Havelock most of my life, but I am from Tennessee, and a lot of my friends live in Tennessee. Yes, Tennessee will be affected by the storm. Already is. Tennessee and Kentucky. Brandon Lindsay. So when is this hurricane moving out of the area? Because I haven't got any info from the news saying they have no clue. So, all right, a little hard to say. Depends on the area you are in. But we can see here that Sally is moving very slow. It's going to pick up speed now that it is crossed into land, basically getting caught up in parts of the jet stream and the upper atmospheric winds, like wind shear and stuff like that. It has been a slow-moving storm, so that right off the bat tells me that this storm is going to be moving slow. It's going to be pretty much all day that these areas are going to be affected, but you can see that back edge, the southwestern edge of Sally is kind of, dissipating pretty significantly. So basically you want to watch this bottom southeastern or southwestern edge, and you kind of got to, measure yourself up to that point, because obviously for a few hundred miles in every direction of the eye wall of Sally, except for that, southwestern part, is really just the beginning of what they're going to experience. So, and we could still see some strong line thunderstorms with Sally, still producing thunderstorms. We're going to be seeing a lot of that in Florida, and now a lot more of it in Georgia. So it really depends on what direction you're in, bud, to give you a better idea of how long this will take. 2 knots, yeah, about 2 to 3 miles an hour, Buckshot. This thing's moving very slow. It's going to pick up, though. Houston County, Alabama. 45 minutes from Panama City. Let's see. Oh, yeah, and as far as those of you living in the Carolinas, I don't see much going on there right now. I mean, it is heading in that direction, clearly, but, yeah, I'm not seeing a lot of weather in the Carolinas right now. Right now, Georgia is getting some pretty high winds. Let's look at some of these wind speeds here. We'll measure these ourselves. I see some purples in there already. So take a look at this. How interesting is this, my friends? So we're looking at wind speeds. We're getting readings from this storm of over 100 miles an hour wind gusts right now. Check this out. These just took place at landfall. This is why I was talking about landfall happening now. Look at these wind speeds we're getting. 113, 106. I'm not making these up. These are legit wind speeds going on. Look at this pocket of wind right here that went over Foley and Alberta. Well over 100 mile an hour wind gusts. Yeah, it delayed a little bit, so... But take a look, my friends, at the radar scope right now. So this storm is still very intensified. So I want to show you something right now. So when you read these radars, our radar is right around here. Let me get rid of the mile per hour screen really quick. So our radar is here, and it's cut in 2 halves. So this is one side of the radar. Here's the other side of the radar, and you can see it moving. I'm going to hit pause here, so it's going to go to the last frame that we have. Now I'm bringing down the measuring tool. This measures wind speed. This is not a joke. This didn't happen an hour ago. This is happening right now as we speak. 101 mile an hour wind gusts and higher. So we have the southwestern edge of this storm, 102 mile an hour wind gusts near Dauphin Island. And look at this wind field here. All these beige colors right here are all 90. There we go, 79, 82. So that's the lower grade of that pocket, and you move into the middle of the pocket with the wind gusts, 104. And then we move to the east of Gulf Shores, where apparently we had landfall, and you move to that northeast quadrant, look at some of these numbers. 96 mile an hour, 101, 102. And we could zoom in even more and get even more detailed. Robertsdale, right now, 97 mile an hour wind speeds with those gusts. So for those of you that are saying or thinking that this storm is done and it's dying out, we still have 100 mile an hour wind gusts going on in multiple areas, most of them to the east of Mobile, and then if it's on the back end of the radar, they're in the southwestern area of Mobile, Alabama. Yes, Jose, that disturbance by Mexico is at like a 40% chance right now. Miramar Beach, Florida. Okay, let's see where that is, because I want to get an idea of this wind field. Do I have anybody in the chat right now or anyone watching that lives in that western area of the Panhandle or anywhere just to the east of Mobile, Alabama? Because I'm getting these wind readings 97, 93, 96, and then high 80s, very high wind speeds right now. And I'm not seeing these being put on the news. I'm reading these with my software that I'm using here. Pensacola. All right, I want the wind speeds for Pensacola. Should be right around here, right? There we go. Pensacola. All right, so Pensacola is just east of where those strong winds are right now. So Pensacola is still getting 50 mile an hour gusts. If we move to the west, the northwest of that, of Pensacola, in between, let's see where the major landmarks are. We got Bay Minette in there. Basically, if you're north, just anything north of Foley. If you're directly north of Foley, that would be interesting to verify some of these wind speeds, because these are high wind speeds, 90s. And then on the back end, we have basically the same thing. Usually not stronger at this point, but this part is over water still, so we're getting those high 90 wind gusts within this storm too. Very crazy that we're still getting those wind speeds. Okay, so where you see those deep purples and the blues, that's the highest of wind speeds for the that northeastern quadrant of the storm. You don't see what I'm seeing. We should be looking at radar scope. Are we seeing radar scope right now? Okay, good. Thank you, Cordea. Someone posted they couldn't see what I was seeing, so I'm just making sure we're all on the same page here. We should be on radar scope together, which I believe we are. All right, good. So, no problem, Barbara. No problem. So let's take a look at this. Just for those of you asking about the wind speeds. All right, so we had official landfall, I guess they are saying, is Gulf Shores, Alabama. Once again, I believe it was closer to Orange Beach, but who's counting? We're talking a couple miles there. No big deal. Wind speeds still upwards of 100 miles an hour. So if I hit pause here, we'll get to the latest frame that we have for measuring the wind, and we can see the back end of the radar here and the top end here. These colors, these are basically the same wind fields, just when you get to the middle of the radar, it goes into one color. The back end of the radar is another color, but here we go. So we move into these deep blues, 100 mile an hour winds near Loxley and Robertsdale, Summerdale, even getting close to 80-mile-an-hour winds. And then we get to the west, the southwest of that area. Dauphin Island still reaching 97-mile-an-hour wind gusts. And we got to understand that Gulf Shores is about to get hit with that back end of the eye wall now. So, a lot of times with these storms, especially when we have a nicely formed eye wall, you will get hit with that front edge of the storm, especially with the direction this one's moving, that northeastern direction. Let's just say Pensacola, for example, will get that northeastern edge of the eye wall. It will calm down while the eye wall goes over them, and then they will get the back end of the eye wall, which is currently down here, which is basically like, the other side of the hurricane, a little bit weaker. But with these winds, it's still going to be pretty significant. Pull this up here. Let's see. What's the red area? Red is these colors are basically just separating the two halves of the radar. So we have the radar centralized right here, just to the west of Mobile, Alabama. So you see how we got this like kind of camo green line? That's what's splitting the radar. So what you see on this side is the same thing you're seeing on this side as far as wind speed. So red and beige represent this half of the radar, blues and greens represent this half, but you can see they're the same thing. They just kind of differentiate so you could see it better. So you could see the minus 96 miles an hour is a 96 mile an hour wind gust there. And then if you match it to this side, we got about 98 mile an hour wind gusts on this side. It's basically, see this bar down here? Everything to this side of the radar is red. By this side, you can see these colors going up to beige, and then brown. And then the top end of the radar is measured by these blues and greens. All the same thing, just different colors to help you visualize it differently and separate it. But very high wind fields still going on. Yeah, so we're going to get basically the same situation that just passed through Gulf Shores and areas like Foley and Summerdale. You're more than likely going to get, and Point Clear right here, you can see this area, Point Clear, Fairhope. This area is where that back end wind field is going to hit. So if you're in any of these areas, that includes Mobile, expect a great deal of wind in the near future on top of what you're already dealing with, because that front end of the hurricane, like we talked about, hit Gulf Shores and those areas, and then kind of went underneath like Bay Minette and stuff like that. So Bay Minette is now getting those front end winds, and then the back end will come over soon. Again, very, very slow-moving storm, which is why these wind fields are not dying. We have half the storm over water, still circulating water and energy, and the other half just now having made landfall, which is why we're seeing still, since 7 a.m., 100-plus mile-an-hour wind speeds. This is not a small deal. This is a big deal, a big storm, still half over water, still strengthening, still staying strong, and very consistent. Does anybody need to know anything about where they are living right now as far as this storm? Lorraine, it's definitely a Harvey-type storm as far as the speed and the amount of water. So we've had plenty of areas with 20-plus inches of rain, plus the storm surge of about 6 to 7 feet. That equals about a 10-foot storm surge. So this thing is very slow-moving. It's dumping a lot of water on a lot of areas. And now these wind speeds have me pretty concerned because they're a little higher than I thought they were. I wasn't checking the wind speeds. I was more relying on the stamp data that NOAA puts out. But now looking at radar scope, we are certainly getting well above 90-mile-an-hour gusts in some areas, pushing the 100 into the teens, 112, 113 miles an hour. Buckshot, we're moving at about 3 miles an hour. Unless that's changed. I don't think it's changed. We'll get back to, here's our main outlook chart with all the storms we have, and Sally is moving. All right, so we're up to 5 miles an hour now. So you can see that kick up to the north is now moving quicker, and we're going to start to see that bend over into the Carolinas. And here is that disturbance for the person asking about the possibility of this disturbance forming near Mexico. We're at 40% chance over the next 48 hours. 60% chance over the next 5 days. This is that invest that kind of started right up in this area as we were first watching Sally in the Bahamas, which is where Sally's going right back to, where it began. It's going to visit home. And we do have this disturbance now, which may become a tropical depression. And then after that, it would become a tropical storm and then given a name. And again, the only name we have left with the original 21 names given for this year is Wilfred. We have Teddy out there, Vicky, Paulette, which is now post-tropical. That's crazy. So we went from a hurricane to post-tropical very quickly. It looks like Paulette's dying out. It's going to shoot down to the south and probably get caught up in whatever Teddy and Vicky are, including this invest here. And we're going to end up with Teddy threatening the east coast of the United States sooner than later. This is going to be a significant storm too. So just as Sally's making landfall, we're already talking about another soon-to-be major hurricane in Teddy. So this is going to certainly be the next one to watch out for. But yes, we do have these two other invests going on, which may be Wilfred and then Alpha, Beta, Gamma, all the Greek alphabet names we're going to be using, which will be very interesting, especially if one of those gets retired. There's smoke here in Pennsylvania. When I was looking at the sun, you can actually look directly at the sun without it hurting your eyes. There's no glare. It's all because of that orange sand. It's like this orange glow to it. It looks like red. It looks like there's fire here, but just not as dense of smoke. But it certainly made it. In fact, there's a few charts we can look at to really see that smoke. In fact, let's pull up this chart here. We'll change to the continental U.S. and wait until you see how this smoke travels. We'll go to natural color and fire and just check this out. I'll hit stop while it loads, but you could just see all this milky looking stuff here. This is all smoke caused by these fires, and it has moved all across the plains of the United States. And you can see it's just following the jet stream now. All this milky stuff is all smoke from these fires. We got the storm down here, and it's just sunrise according to this chart a few hours ago. And we got all that smoke moving into PA, New York, obviously New Jersey, and it's just following the jet stream pretty much. And once we get back to daylight, you'll be able to see that again. So you can see right here, we have this system up here. A lot of it is the smoke. A lot of this swirled out and into a big system. Now it's getting pushed back into the U.S. We'll go to the particle size chart and check that out too. It's a little bit easier to see the movement. All right, we'll let that load for a little bit. In the meantime, we'll go back to Sally. No, MJ, you're absolutely right. There's actually a lot of stuff I do cover and study. It's just been it's been a crazy 8 to 12 months for me, and these storms are super important right now. So I'm sticking with these, and then I'll have a another direction I'm moving in to incorporate into the channel throughout the winter, which will be very interesting. All good things happening here. Pretty deep right there. Let's see. So here is the difference between the European version of what's going to happen with Teddy and the GFS version. And we'll even open, where's the CMC? Here's the Canadian model. So we'll do all three. Let's take a look at all three of these. We haven't looked at the Canadian model yet. We'll look at that now. So we're set to September 16th. Let's just get our lineup set here. Here is Sally, obviously. We have Teddy down here, expected to be a big storm. And then we have Paulette up here, which is actually downgraded to a post-tropical system as of now. So let's move forward and see what to expect. So obviously Sally's going to make its way. It's going to start moving. It's moving at 5 miles an hour northeast. So it's going to continue moving east, probably exit through the Carolinas. And then we saw that spaghetti plot of Sally recycling itself right down to where it began its life cycle. So that's going to be interesting to see what happens with that storm. But we're really focusing on Teddy right now and the differences with these charts and the potential for a major hurricane here. So you can see Teddy also in agreement on the Canadian model to go over the Lesser Antilles and Leeward Islands over the next few days. And then this is where the charts begin to differ. They differ in pressure, they differ in size, and they differ in the trajectory this thing takes. But what they do have in common is that constant, like, boomerang movement. They have the storm following the warm water belt, getting pushed towards the U.S., and then some sort of force, I believe it's this high-pressure system that's moving west to east across the U.S., catches the storm, which would be Teddy, and pushes it away just in time. As you can see here, if I back up, we have this very, very high-pressure system going on from basically the middle of the U.S. eastward. And as we move forward, you can see that high pressure kind of just sits there. It's kind of blanketing Teddy on both sides, which is going to keep it away from the coast of the U.S., which is a good thing. That's what we want. And you can see Teddy actually breaks apart this high pressure system into two high pressures. And then by the time they split, Teddy is already north enough to where it won't clip the U.S. This will be areas of Canada it may hit, which we don't want also. But as far as the U.S., that would avoid a landfall. But all we got to do is go to the European model to see just that little bit of difference in detail changes everything. So again, we have that high pressure wall above us all up in Canada and the United States, and it's almost hugging it on both sides. You're going to see that near split, except the split happens a little higher now. The centralized area, this high pressure system is a little more north and just above, as opposed to where this one was. You see how the split happens here and here. With the European, the split happens here and here. And that makes all the difference because that high pressure now disappears. This is the only one left. That leaves the northern angle possible. And then that left movement even more possible. So that's where we get that turn from this area. Had this high pressure system been over here, we couldn't make that left turn like the Canadian model is saying. So there's no left turn here because the high pressure's in the way. But the Europeans have that high pressure more to the east of the storm, and that allows it, boom, to hook right into the U.S. So these little tiny changes make a huge difference in where these storms are going to go, and the sooner these changes happen, the bigger change of the outcome. So if something happens to Teddy down in here, that's going to drastically change the trajectory of this storm. If nothing changes until about 5 or 6 days from now, we can basically guarantee that this timeline was right. So again, here's the updated GFS version. And now the new data only brings us to here, but we remember that brought us around Bermuda and then out into the ocean. So all three charts really showing not crazy different data, but all have a different story to play. But all of which bring this storm close to the U.S. and then it hooks out, all depending on whether this high pressure splits in a certain area. We can see here it splits in the States and in the ocean, and then the European model, it splits a lot closer together to the north. And then the GFS, we don't even have that data yet for the updated chart. Whew, that was a lot of talking. Canada is definitely a safe place to live. It's a little colder up there, but, you know, it's give and take. I would love to live in Canada. In fact, I plan on it very shortly. Very nice. So this is the movement of Paulette. What's interesting about Paulette is it has been downgraded a lot quicker than they thought it would be. It is post-tropical right now and is still showing 85-mile-an-hour sustained winds. Post-tropical cyclone. I wonder if it's because of the area that it's in that it's being considered post-tropical. That's a pretty... We're going to start being able to use this radar chart now that the sun's up. Really good bit of information there. Let's see. All right, we could try that one. All right, this one seems to be working a little better now. Let's get updated on our wind speeds. That's important. Teddy is going to be huge. Do you think that it has a chance to make a sharp left turn near the Carolinas? It is showing that left turn later on, so it's absolutely possible. It's very hard to determine whether or not that thing is going to be turned sooner or not. Once it gets above the Leeward and Lesser Antilles Islands, that's when we'll really have a much better sense of direction. It's very hard to predict before we cross that threshold there with those islands. This website right here is weather.cod.edu. It's a very good website. All different layers on it that you can use. You could watch the water vapor. You could see all sorts of things on here. Thank you very much. Sunshine Cat, thank you. Minnesota is cold. I think, wasn't it last winter? It hit like -50, -60 degrees. Oof, I remember it was so cold. So cold. All right, let's see what we haven't looked at in a minute. Oh, that's right, the wind speeds. We're going to go back to the wind speeds. And then we're going to go through some history. We're going to have a history lesson today. So those of you that are getting homeschooled, we can get homeschooled. Oh, so here we go. Here is a look at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and obviously 10. If that happens, we have 10 invests going on between the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans. This warm water belt is clearly super active. The Caribbean, the Gulf, super warm water, 80s. Some of these waters are in the 90s, 90-degree waters. Hurricanes can survive and form in cooler waters as well, but more than likely, and more times than not, their fuel is that warm water. But take a look. Bring the chat up again in here. Take a look at some of these continuing wind speeds we have. So we were just talking about areas like Foley and Alberta, and now we got to look a little to the north of there. That's how quick the wind field at least is moving. So now we're looking at Somerdale. And if we put the cursor there, we're seeing gusts 76. They got a big puff of 100-mile-an-hour gusts of wind, and now it's bumping back down into the 70s. So we could see this wind field is a very real thing, and it's basically moving with the storm to that northeastern direction. That does not mean that those high winds are going to continue all the way following the storm in that northeastern quadrant. They are going to die down now that we've made landfall, but the fact that we're still getting those upper 80s and 90s and even 100-mile-an-hour winds in some cases is just proof that when you have half the storm over water and half on land, the half over water really keeps that storm super strong. So we're talking Category 2 wind gusts right now with a Category 1 storm that has already made landfall. Based on the speed that it's moving, this is why we're seeing wind speeds this high still. Man, watching this rotation, it's pretty. You know, to be honest, my prediction, I can say it now because it's already happened. I didn't really say this in videos, but I'm talking privately to some people and stuff like that. My prediction for landfall was Dolphin Island. Obviously, I was off because it was closer to Gulf Shores and Orange Beach. But, you know, I make my own little predictions, you know, within my head, and, you know, things I talk about with, you know, close friends and stuff like that. So, um, you can, you know, if you know what you're looking at and you read the charts well, and you know what you're looking at, and you can separate, you know, opinion-based data from fact data, and you can kind of meet in the middle there. You can get a pretty decent idea of where a storm's going to go within a relative, you know, amount of time. You know, anything outside of 4 or 5 days, you know, you're really, you know, you're really throwing. You're just hoping it sticks at that point, because it's very hard to predict weather. It's very rare that it's a sure thing with data that far out, but it's happened before. And of course, people get lucky. You can guess where something's gonna go, and you know, you just happen to, you know, play it right that day. But it's not something you want to get used to. You don't want to be known as a weather predictor. It's very it's much more important to know why weather's forming and where it could potentially go, and being warned a lot sooner than having to get all your stuff together right away. It's better to have an idea of where it's going to go to get mentally prepared just as much as physically, because half the battle with preparing for a storm like this, or even, you know, in the West Coast with the fires, like preparing for any sort of natural disaster, a lot of it's mental and how you handle situations as opposed to just being able to react. You know, a lot of people freeze when it comes time to really act, and you know, when it comes to your life, that's a whole different type of adrenaline and a different type of fear, and you can freeze. And unless you have people around you that really know what they're doing or have had experience with these things, or you know, can stay calm, cool, and collected in times of chaos, you know, you might not be in the best situation. You know, and watching this stuff, whether it's repetitive or not, at least you know what to expect. You know the fluctuation in different speeds and in different conditions that change these storms. So, you know, it becomes easier to make these educated guesses, you know, for yourself. It's not like you need to go out and predict to the world, like, okay, this hurricane's going to land here on this day. I'm guaranteeing it. You don't really want to be that person, because you're just lining yourself up. Even though if your intention is to help people, you're lining yourself up to be criticized in a pretty harsh world we live in, and that's the world of YouTube. Yeah, a lot of mental warfare going on with this season. Buckshot, that is the Pacific Ocean. So the Pacific Ocean has a different beginning and end date for their season, and the Atlantic has its own beginning and end date. So in turn, they each have their own set of names. So the Pacific Ocean is currently on letter K. We went through letter K a while ago, but that's what separates the two. So we have the Pacific 21 names, and then we have the Atlantic 21 names, which are a different set. Ooh, interesting. I'm not seeing an earthquake right now in North Carolina. Was it recently? Because I know we had one in Florida, 4.0 I reported on. We had the 3.4 in Jersey a few days ago. And it would not surprise me if we did have a earthquake in North Carolina. So we'll go to all magnitudes and just see if we have any one-day all magnitude marks. We don't. That doesn't mean it didn't happen. The SGS has been known for not posting everything that shakes, if you know what I mean. Here's a quarry blast. For those of you that don't know on this chart, these diamond symbols, these are blasts. Calculated ones. So you can see the quarries here. They're probably blowing rock out of these areas. You can see this is all a quarry here that had to be blown out at some point. So these diamonds represent actual explosions, as opposed to the usual circles that we see with earthquakes. I was about to call them hurricanes. Shocker. But no, I did not see this North Carolina earthquake. It's just Jack. They show quarry blasts. They use like dynamite and stuff to blow up mountains to either get the material out from the rock or clear, an area for a roadway or something like that. So they do like controlled explosions. So they represent those with diamonds so we can tell the difference so we don't confuse them with earthquakes. So you can see the diamond symbol right there, and then we got the circles are natural earthquakes that just happen along the fault lines. And then these diamonds here represent known explosions. If something did explode, I'm sure it would pick up on here, but it would probably be registered as a earthquake first with the sensors and then adjusted to be an explosion. But when you see this diamond, usually it means they knew about it, they knew it was coming, and they adjust the symbol accordingly. I talk to Dutch Sense pretty often. In fact, I sent Dutch Sense the those images of the possible laser beam. And he certainly ran with that. I knew that would be a big deal. Because the second I saw it, it reminded me of a few years ago when I saw something similar, and a very similar outcome happened. I relayed the info to somebody, and they took it and ran. It's just not quite the stuff I tend to focus on with this channel. I will touch on it because it's interesting, and interesting things is where, this channel was born from. There's just some things that YouTube, doesn't like you talking about anymore. Yes, Jose, let's look at the track of the system in the Gulf. So we've got two systems in the Gulf right now. Obviously Sally, which is almost not in the Gulf anymore because it's inland. But we do have this invest here, 40% chance. All right, so we'll read this together. An area of low pressure over the southwestern Gulf of Mexico is producing showers and thunderstorms that have become a little better organized during the past several hours. Upper level winds are forecast to gradually become more conductive for development, and a tropical depression could form late this week or over the weekend. While the low meanders over the southern Gulf of Mexico for the next several days. So basically what they're saying is there's a chance of early development over the next 48 hours is 40%. But chances are it will form after that with the higher chance with 60%. And the movement it's going, and you can see we have the system here, and then you can kind of see some of these clouds that have peeled off the system across the landmass of Mexico into the Pacific Ocean. So we could see the momentum is pushing it in that direction. If we remember, this invest started up just to the east of Texas and was kind of projected to move its way down here, which it did, and that's exactly where it's sitting now. So if anything, in my opinion, chances are this thing is just going to get swallowed up by Mexico, or it could cross over Mexico and become a system in the eastern Pacific. If we click that, we could see we have the letter K. The Pacific Ocean is on letter K. We are obviously on letter W. Two different oceans, two different sets of names, but we have seen storms cross over the landmass here, some near Belize and Nicaragua, and they cross over this landmass and then reform on this side. So we may see that happen. But as of right now, besides the threat to Mexico and maybe areas of Cancun, if this thing hooks up into this direction, this will stay in invest and may just take up a name on the list. It may become a tropical depression. If it does that, it may use up a name if it reaches tropical storm status. And more than likely will not be an issue to the U.S., but Mexico and these other areas, absolutely. So we'll be keeping an eye on this storm very closely. And then, of course, we have our new invest 50% chance over the next 2 days and 70% chance over the 5-day period. This is red on the 5-day chart. And then, of course, Teddy is the next significant threat to the U.S. as we're still dealing with Sandy. It seems like it's never ending. Okay, it was about a month ago. That's why it didn't show up. Okay, so in that case, I did hear about it. Yeah, I remember that now. Got the data loading on the Canadian model. Okay, let's talk about this for a sec. So, Canadians got the split. The GFS. That's Sally then. So now it's showing. Are we going to have a split? Almost. So it's showing the strengthening of Teddy right to the high pressure system. There's the high pressure system there. All right, so are you guys following me as far as my explanation with this high pressure system when it comes to Teddy? We are looking into the future, but it's also a learning opportunity here. So this was also taught to me by my brother. And what I want you to look at is the difference we're seeing. In fact, the Canadian model has just changed as I'm looking at this, so it's going to be a little different now. We could change the data back to the last 12 hours or the 0 hour, but we want the most current data. So this is the most updated data, which only takes us to this point. So we would have to go to the European chart to then get extended information, which could be different. So in the next hour or so, we should have a new set of data from the Canadian model, at least, to give us an idea of where they may see Teddy going, which is a good thing because the 11 a.m. updates should be out by now as far as any sort of changes with this stuff. And let's check out anything they've changed with Sally. 80 miles an hour now. So it's a sustained 80 mile an hour Category 1 hurricane is Sally right now. Let's take a look at some of the wind speeds as far as wind gusts. Still wind gusts well over 100 miles an hour. The sustained hurricane strength is true. That is a sustained wind. So if you were standing in Sally right now, you would have a constant 80 mile an hour wind speed going on. Now what you're looking at here with these 112, 114, these are gusts. So we're getting Category 2 and 3 wind gusts still from Hurricane Sally, even though we've been through landfall for the last about hour and a half, and the back end wind field is still pushing upwards of 100 miles an hour as far as gusts. These are not sustained winds. The sustained winds are about 80 right now, closest to the shore. So we have a lot going on right now. This is a very strong storm, a lot of momentum and strength within that storm. Yeah, PCB Florida is definitely getting heavy, heavy wind gusts right now. Anytime, MJ. Come back anytime. See this one here. There we go. 11:59. We're almost at noon, my friends. It's almost noon here on the East Coast. 119 people watching. Just want to say hi to each and every one of you. Hope you're having a good day, especially those living in the Gulf states today. I hope you are safe, or at least in a safe area for the time being. We are watching Hurricane Sally, now a Category 1 storm. Blew up overnight. Was at 80-mile-an-hour sustained winds as I was going to bed last night. And then, out of nowhere, rapid intensification. They say overnight hours really help hurricanes. And I don't know if that's the extra heat coming off the ocean without the sun's aid or what, but we saw exactly that as Sally blew up to a 110-mile-an-hour storm. We have made landfall near Gulfport, Alabama, and we are now at 80-mile-an-hour sustained winds, 975 millibars in pressure. Still a pretty low pressure, still significant winds going on. As you can see here on radar scope, we're getting winds upwards of 105 mile an hour, and those are gusts. The sustained winds are about 80 miles an hour, so definitely a significant storm going on right now. Basically, the areas that are getting the worst of the winds right now are Silver Hill, Robertsdale, Summerdale. Alberta is just getting out of the back end of that wind field, but we need to keep in mind that the hurricane has an eye, and we have that front northeastern quadrant wind field, and then we have the southwestern quadrant that follows after it. So it's moving in a direction kind of like this, and we have both ends of the eye wall to go through with a lot of these states that are closer to the Gulf before the eye wall closes up, and this becomes like a tropical depression type system where it's more like expanded and disorganized as opposed to the organization and wind speeds we have with a Category 1 hurricane. And I remember a lot of people saying that this thing was not going to amount to anything. It wouldn't be even a tropical storm at landfall. And that's not what happened. The Gulf is way too warm. The conditions were way too favorable. Zero shear wind. And whatever shear wind there was, we could barely tell it was even there because of how weak it was. And by last night, I was expecting a Category 1 landfall later on this afternoon. Ended up being an earlier landfall with a stronger storm, so picked up speed. And I believe we're at, 5 miles an hour now? Yes, we're moving north-northeast, 4 knots, 5 miles an hour. We've got 2 separate invests, one a little bigger than the other, waiting to see which one of these takes up the last name of the 2020 hurricane season, which would be Wilfred. After Vicky, Teddy, Paulette, Sally, we had Renee in there, 5 names at once. Last time that happened was 1971, almost 50 years ago that we saw 5 named storms in the Atlantic at the same time. And not since 2005, that busy hurricane season, have we actually run out of original names that we were given before the season started. So we're given the names for the hurricane season about 2 years in advance. So we already have the names for the 2021 and 22 season, maybe even the 23rd. But it's very rare that we go into the Greek alphabet, which is what happens when you run out of those names. Usually you get a set of 21. Some letters are missing. Some of the less common letters with names like Z and Q, we skip those. So it's 21 names, the last letter being W. And then once W's over, which would be Wilfred, which we're clearly heading towards that potential. With the amount of storms we have right now, we've had all these show up in the last 8 to 10 days, including the invests, and we're looking for one more, and that is going to solidify the 21 names for this year, and then we'll be moving into Alpha, Beta, Gamma, and the Greek alphabet for the remainder of the season. So your guess is as good as mine on how many storms or how many more storms we're going to get. I'm saying we're going to see a few. We're definitely going to get into that Greek alphabet. We may have a little break for about a week or two, and then we're going to have that one final push, I believe, with a few names getting used during that time. So let's take a look at the water vapor chart. We'll keep this on for a minute, and we'll keep scrolling back and forth between that and the wind field chart. But look at these wind speeds. The top edge of Sally coming down a little bit. We were averaging that 101 mark, and now we're averaging like the 98. So as we are entering land, these winds are dying down, and the reason we still have high winds like this is because we have half the storm still fueling over that warm Gulf water. Yeah, I'm still seeing 101 there. That's a lot. That's a whole lot. All right, I'm going to leave this screen on for 1 second. I'm throwing on the NOAA radio. I'm just running downstairs really quick. I'll be back in just a couple minutes. There we go.
AM Eastern Daylight Time. Doppler radar indicated showers.
All right, guys, I'll be right back. 2 minutes.
Around 30 knots. These showers were located along a line extending from 22 nautical miles west of Indian Rocks Beach to 19 nautical miles southwest of Don Pedro Island, moving northwest at 10 knots. Mariners can expect gusty winds to around 30 knots, locally higher waves, and occasional lightning strikes. Brief water spouts are also possible. Boaters should seek safe harbor immediately until these storms pass. Tide forecast. At St. Petersburg, high tide Wednesday at 1:48 p.m. Low tide Wednesday at 8:50 p.m. High rip current risk remains in effect through Thursday evening. What? Dangerous rip currents. Where? Pinellas, coastal Hillsborough, coastal Manatee, coastal Sarasota, coastal Charlotte, and coastal Lee counties. When? Through Thursday evening. Impacts. Rip currents can sweep even the best swimmers away from shore into deeper water. Swim near a lifeguard. If caught in a rip current, relax and float. Don't swim against the current. If able, swim in a direction following the shoreline. If unable to escape, face the shore and call a wave for help. The flood warning is now in effect until early Thursday afternoon. The flood warning continues for the Cypress Creek at SR 54 Worthington Gardens until Thursday afternoon. At 10 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time Tuesday, the stage was 8 feet. Flood stage is 8 feet. Minor flooding is forecast. Forecast. The river is expected to rise above flood stage just after midnight tonight to a crest of 8 feet just after midnight tonight. It will then fall below flood stage Thursday morning. Impact. At 8 feet, flooding begins at the recreation area on State Road 54. Flood history. This crest compares to a previous crest of 8.1 feet on May 29, 1976. Turn around. Don't drown when encountering flooded roads. Most flood deaths occur in vehicles. A flood warning means that flooding is imminent or occurring. All interested parties should take necessary precautions immediately. Caution is urged when walking near riverbanks. Additional information is available at www.weather.gov. The next statement will be issued Wednesday morning at 10:45 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Forecast flooding changed to minor severity and increase in duration until tomorrow evening. The flood warning continues for the Peace River at Bardo until Wednesday evening. At 10:15 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time Tuesday, the stage was 8 feet. Flood stage is 8 feet. Minor flooding is occurring and minor flooding is forecast. Recent activity. The maximum river stage in the 24 hours ending at 10:15 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time Tuesday was 8 feet. Forecast. The river is expected to remain steady below flood stage early tomorrow afternoon and continue falling at flood stage. Impact. At 8 feet, private roads downstream flood. Flood history. This crest compares to a previous crest of 8.1 feet on July 18, 1991. Turn around. Don't drown when encountering flooded roads. Most flood deaths occur in vehicles. A flood warning means that flooding is imminent or occurring. All interested parties should take necessary precautions immediately. Caution is urged when walking near riverbanks. Additional information is available at www.weather.gov. The next statement will be issued Wednesday morning. The current time is 9:38 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. The tropical weather outlook issued by the National Hurricane forecast flooding changed to minor severity and increase in duration until tomorrow evening. The flood warning continues for the Peace River at Bardo until Wednesday evening. At 10:15 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time Tuesday, the stage was 8 feet. Flood stage is 8 feet. Minor flooding is occurring and minor flooding is forecast. Recent activity, the maximum river stage in the 24 hours ending at 10:15 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time Tuesday was 8 feet. Forecast, the river is expected to remain steady below flood stage early tomorrow afternoon and continue falling at flood stage. Impact, at 8 feet, private roads downstream flood. Flood history, this crest compares to a previous crest of 8.1 feet on July 18, 1991. Turn around, don't drown when encountering flooded roads. Most flood deaths occur in vehicles. A flood warning means that flooding is imminent or occurring. All interested parties should take necessary precautions immediately. Caution is urged when walking near riverbanks. Additional information is available at www.weather.gov. The next statement will be issued Wednesday morning. The current time is 10:36 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. The tropical weather outlook issued by the National Hurricane Center in Miami. Issued at 7:11 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. For the North Atlantic, Caribbean Sea, and the Gulf of Mexico, the National Hurricane Center is issuing advisories on Hurricane Paulette, located several hundred miles south-southeast of Cape Race, Newfoundland, on Hurricane Sally, centered in Lanier Gulf Shores, Alabama, on recently upgraded Hurricane Teddy, located over the central tropical Atlantic, and on Tropical Storm Vicky, located over the eastern tropical Atlantic. An area of low pressure over the southwestern Gulf of Mexico is producing showers and thunderstorms that have become a little better organized during the past several hours. Upper-level winds are forecast to gradually become more conducive for development, and a tropical depression could form late this week or over the weekend while the low meanders over the southern Gulf of Mexico for the next several days. Formation chance through 48 hours, medium, 40%. Formation chance through 5 days, medium, 60%. Showers and thunderstorms continue in association with an area of low pressure located a few hundred miles south-southeast of the Cabo Verde Islands. Environmental conditions are conducive for development of the system, and the tropical depression is likely to form during the next few days while the system moves generally westward at 10 to 15 miles an hour. Formation chance through 48 hours, medium, 50%. Formation chance through 5 days, high, 70%. A non-tropical area of low pressure is located over the far northeastern Atlantic Ocean a few hundred miles northeast of the Azores. This system could acquire some subtropical characteristics while it moves southeastward and eastward at about 10 miles an hour during the next few days. For more information on this system, see high seas forecast issued by Meteo France. Formation chance through 48 hours, low, 20%. Formation chance through 5 days, low, 20%. This is a tropical weather bulletin from the
Tropical Weather Bulletin from the National Hurricane Center. All right. Let's get back to our water vapor chart. There we go. Still massive amounts of rain going on. You can see the heavy parts of this rain are kind of showing up on that western area, and then as that wraps around, we get the eastern area more on the panhandle than anything. And also notice the storms that are beginning to pop out off the coast. You can see we got the counterclockwise spin, the bands coming off, and we got a pretty heavy breakout of storms going on right in this area here. So these are going to start pulling in closer to the coast. So we're going to start seeing these pop up in South Carolina, if not already. We could check that out on the radar scope as well. Massive storm. And we got a pretty good pop-up of storms moving into central Florida as well. Southeastern quadrant of the storm. More so off that quadrant. Not so much part of the storm. Definitely being caused by the storm, but that mix of warm air. Pop-up storms, central Florida. Georgia is going to get hit pretty hard. I believe we'll start seeing possible tornado warnings pop up. We'll check radar scope quick. We're going to start seeing those red signatures pop up. In this column here where we see the flash flooding, we're going to see red boxes pop up, more than likely in the northeastern quadrant. So we could be seeing Bulletin, Atmore, Milton. So in this quadrant right here, we may see some red boxes pop up. Those will be our tornado warnings. They are pretty common in the few hours after landfall of a hurricane. So do not be surprised to see that. We already have these areas under a flash flood warning, so it won't be any sort of surprise to see tornado warnings pop up, but still not something you want to see. Yeah, the screen delays sometimes. What I was explaining with the water vapor here is that the storms popping up in central Florida are a direct result of the rain bands mixing with that warm air. And I was explaining these storms that are breaking off. We could see the size of this storm pretty broad right now. As they hit land, they expand, and now we're seeing a lot of the state of Alabama clearly and Panhandle, because that's where our landfall took place, but we're seeing these extensions now into Georgia, and specifically these pop-up storms going on the coast and out into the Atlantic. This convection is pulling up, and these storms are really exploding, so we're going to start seeing these tornado warnings I was explaining. We can look on radar scope. We'll see them here first. We could see these green flash flood warnings, these boxes covering a lot of these counties here. We're going to start seeing these red boxes, which represent tornado warnings, more than likely in the northeast quadrant. So if I put our circle here right in the middle of the storm, kind of confusing because the satellite and radar is right here. So that's not the eye of the storm. The eye of the storm is right about here. So we got that northeast quadrant, southwest quadrant. The tornado warnings are more than likely going to pop up in this area. And if I zoom in, even more of a detailed area would probably be, like I said, the Bulletin area, East Bulletin, Riverview. This entire area here is going to be prone to the tornado warnings coming up shortly. And they're going to spin in the same exact direction. These are going to branch off. And in fact, if we switch over to the reflectivity chart and let that load, we could see exactly where the strongest of the thunderstorms are. We already saw the wind field, and we can see going through Pensacola, Ferries Pass, these areas are getting hit the hardest right now with the rain bands. And then, like I said, we have Bulletin and Milton, a pretty wide area in here to split apart, but this is where we might see those tornado warnings. And in fact, you're seeing little red splotches. See those reds right there? Those are potential tornado warnings already. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So we will be seeing these on this chart here. You see a lot of green. You're going to start seeing some red. This is what happens with these hurricanes once they make landfall. We start seeing the tornadoes branching off, no different than the water spouts we see in the Gulf, also caused by a lot of these hurricanes. Yeah, the internet's not being too friendly today. That's the shot we want right there. This is the most current frame we have for Hurricane Sally. We could see heavy, heavy rain just south of Warrington, Gulf breeze, and then that horseshoe shape brings it all the way up to Robertsdale, Summerdale right on the edge of there. Orange Beach now in the center, right where the eye is. Gulf Shores still kind of in that eye, so Gulf Shores is still going to get the back end of that wind field as well as Orange Beach. A lot more to go with Hurricane Sally. Let's take a look at our chart. Gives us a little bit of info on each of these storms. 80-mile-an-hour sustained winds for Sally. Paulette is post-tropical right now at 85-mile-an-hour sustained winds. Then we have Tropical Storm Vicky, 40-mile-an-hour sustained winds, 1,008 millibars. And the more than likely next threat, possible threat to the U.S. is Hurricane Teddy, steadily growing, 100 miles an hour, 973 millibars in pressure. This invest is pretty interesting too. 70% chance of cyclone formation over the next 5 days, 50% over the next 48 hours. So we could be seeing the last name, Wilfred, right here, or possibly right here. If there's enough space before this hits land and kind of dissipates, it may pop up in the Pacific Ocean. We don't know yet. It has risen in percentage. The chance of cyclone formation has risen with this invest here from about 10 to 20% yesterday to now 40 to 60% chance over the next 5 days. Net official, yeah, we were talking about the smoke from the West Coast earlier in the live stream, and my mom specifically was taking pictures this morning, yesterday morning, and we are getting that, that orange sun that you can almost look directly at because of the molecules of the smoke and the dust. It's got that orange hue to it. It almost looks like I'm back in California. It doesn't feel like it weather-wise. It's getting very cool in the Northeast, but you definitely had that California sun due to the smoke from the fires. Yeah, Angel of God with the names. I've explained it a few times, but it's a rare thing because we usually don't go through the 21 names we're given. So, a lot of people are like, well, it's supposed to be 26. There's 26 letters in the alphabet. We don't really use the letter Q or Z. The Pacific Ocean does, but so we're given the 21 names in the beginning of the season. Any of those significant storms that happened throughout that time, those names are retired. I believe Laura will be retired, which means we will never have a Hurricane Laura again. Just like we don't have an Irma, we won't have a Harvey, a Maria, any of those major hurricanes that have taken place over time. So what we do is once we hit that last letter, which we have one more to go, which would be Wilfred, we have Vicky here, so QRSTUV, and then we have W, and we don't use X, we don't use Y or Z. So Wilfred is the last name of the 21 given, and then we move into the Greek alphabet. We'll go back to letter A, and it will be Tropical Storm Alpha would be the first name of the Greek alphabet, which we'll use until the conclusion of the season. And then next year, we already have our names picked out that we're going to use. In fact, let's look them up. Let's see the names for 2021. In fact, we should have the names all the way up to 2022. They usually do two names or two sets of names in a row. Okay, so we actually have through 2024. So here is next year. We have these names here. So again, we skip the letters X, Y, and Z in all of these. So for next year, letter W is Wanda. Then we have Walter, Whitney, William. And I believe we had William, was it last year? I think, yeah, William was a name for last year. So some of these names get recycled. And in the case that they are retired, they will then be taken out of the later years if they're repeated and replaced with a new name. So as I said, we have our names all the way up through 2024. Do any of them stick out to me personally? Let's see. We have Katia again. Check that out. Last time we saw Katia was 2017. That record-breaking storm. Claudette, Danny, Elza, Fred, Grace, Henry with an I. Ida, Julian, Kate, Larry, Mindy, Nicholas, Odette, Peter, Rose, Sam, Teresa, Victor, and Wanda. Pretty interesting how they pick these names. I looked up Brian, and you know what? I don't think so. And if there was a Hurricane Brian, I think it was nothing really crazy. That's not Brian. Hurricane Brian. Let's see. Just for fun. Brian Williams, of course. I don't think there's ever been a Hurricane Brian. Very interesting. There's never been one. They got to get that name on the list. I don't even care if it's the Pacific list. Get it on there somewhere. But yes, my friends, so we have our names picked out through 2024. Remember Dorian? Oof. We get Hurricane Debbie in 2024. That'll be interesting. Hurricane Harold in 2023. Tobias in 2022. All right. Let's see where our winds are at now. 12:26 right now. We'll probably go for another 10-15 minutes for this stream. Super res. We'll let this load. Check out our wind speeds. And I'm telling you, we're going to start seeing those tornado warnings pop up sooner than later. I have contact information in the info box of every video. We got Twitter is used most of the time to share the videos. And obviously you can email. There's an email address in there as well. Yes, thank you, Buckshot. Exactly. No, there's no Facebook. There is an Instagram here. I'll post the links in there for you. I'm grabbing the links out of the info box here so you have the contact information.
There is a
Ooh, didn't know the audio would play. Let's see. All right, those links there should work. That's for the Twitter account and the Instagram, and there is a backup channel that I use as well. I have not been promoting it too much, but it is absolutely there for you to like, share, and sub to that as well. In fact, we'll run over to that real quick, and then we'll throw the main channel back on. But here is the backup channel, Into Thin Air News. And we've been posting on here for a little bit, certainly over a year. But this is the backup channel. So all you got to do is search Into Thin Air, and both channels will pop up more than likely. The Into Thin Air News channel will pop up. The logo is white as opposed to the black logo, and that is how you tell the difference. I often chat in the live streams under both names, so you'll know that it is me. There we go. We're getting some new data in finally from the radars, and we're starting to see that back end quadrant of Sally kind of not so much dissipate, but lose some of its organization. You're going to see that in the end of this bar right here. And then we'll pause it and take a look. So we can see that convection if I keep bringing the mouse back and forth here, as opposed to where we had the eye wall and the deep greens on all sides of this storm. We can kind of bring it here now. And you see now that the eye wall has basically made it onto land, that storm is now losing a little bit of that rotation. And this entire area, if I can get it to stop there, is kind of just shifting as opposed to spinning. We have the lower levels spinning and then the upper levels kind of sitting still. And we're going to see that kind of continue as we approach or actually move into Georgia, those bands moving into Georgia more and more. And then we'll start seeing more than likely some of these tornado warnings. So we're already seeing the severe thunderstorm warning right here, one of those yellow markers that's popping up near Tallahassee, and then we have the flash flood warnings, and we're going to start seeing those red ones as far as tornado warnings. So once I end the live stream, if any of those pop up, I will probably do a separate video probably for those individual tornado warnings. If not, I may jump on and do another live stream. Thank you very much, MSS. I appreciate that. All right, let's see. Yep, still sustained at 80, 85, 100, and 40 for our 4 named storms currently in the Atlantic. We may lose Paulette, but we may gain Teddy fairly quickly. 2 potential invests that are showing signs of strengthening as we follow Sally as well. And a lot of these spaghetti plots, as you can see, one more thing that I want to explain again before I jump off of here. When we look at these spaghetti plots, what's interesting about the UK X2 plot right here is that it puts Sally right into the same spot where it originally formed. If you guys remember, Sally was once an invest with just a 10% chance of formation while we were watching the Atlantic Ocean for other potential storms. Sally popped out of nowhere and then tracked underneath Florida, across the Keys, battered the Keys pretty bad, and then we followed the last 3 days of Sally coming up to the Gulf, wondering where it was going to hit, and now the plots have it going over Georgia, through South Carolina, possibly North Carolina, but that overall idea of a southern hook back towards the Bahamas is very concerning because the storm may recycle itself and become a whole new storm. Its potential it may never even lose its name. If it dies down below a depression to the remnants phase and then reforms, it'll take on a new name. But if it doesn't go below that remnants form, it'll stay Sally, and we may be dealing with Sally a second time. Very, very rare situation, but it is possible. Yeah, Buckshot. So the chart is showing Paulette as a post-tropical cyclone at 85 miles an hour. So unless that was some sort of typo, I'm assuming that it drastically decreased in speed and it's actually a lot less than 85 miles an hour. Because 85 miles an hour is clearly a Category 1 storm. That would not be a post-tropical cyclone. So I believe the speed is below 85 miles an hour. And if we took a look at the radar as well, you kind of can't really see Paulette out there. It's not a very noticeable storm at the moment. 974 millibars on the GFS, so it should be very visible. I'm not quite sure what's going on with Paulette besides the fact that the trajectory changed to a northern movement. What's up, Chris? I've actually been on for a while. I was going to jump off for a little bit. I'm just going over some last-minute info, getting prepared for these tornado warnings. Oh, Julianne Steele, your cat passed away. I'm so sorry. All right, let's see here. $941. So the European chart is the one showing Teddy being the biggest threat. We'll go over this again really quick. So our orientation here. So we have, let's move forward a little bit to 16. There we go. So here's Sally, Paulette, Teddy, Vicky. Teddy is going to be an issue, so it seems. So we get a strong Category 4 storm right here as we're sitting in that pocket north of the Leeward and Lesser Antilles Islands, and clearly to the west of the Bahamas, that little pocket there. We're at 942 millibars in pressure. That alone is a very strong storm, only really strengthening or weakening, I should say, by 1 millibar in pressure as it hooks up towards the U.S. And then we have 941, which is a stronger storm than when we first started in the northeast. That's super rare. And then we may see this hook. You can see that hook. It dies down to 973 because of the water temperature. But still, to have a storm of that size getting this far north is very concerning. And then to see the Europeans having that hook. If this high pressure, this split of the high pressure, if you can see, this is one high pressure system. As the storm comes up, it splits to two, but it depends on where this left high pressure system is. If it's over here more, we're going to see this storm get pushed out. But the more this second one is shifted to the east, the more potential the low has to go this way. So as we can see, the split allows the low to come in towards the U.S. On the other charts, it does not really show that. We get to see the high pressure over top on the GFS. It splits, but in a way that the high pressure ends up far to the east or the west of the storm, forcing it out this way, as opposed to the European model, which splits it too far to the west and allows it to come up north. So I hope you guys are seeing the difference there that I'm trying to show you. It's a little hard to read if you're not used to the charts, but it is certainly there. No, my cat that passed away was named Kitty Boy. That was his actual name. I have Kitty Boy and Kitty Girl. Sam, I honestly, as of right now, as far as the Gulf, if I have to pick something, I would say it's this disturbance right here. But chances are this thing will not make its way back up north into the States. So I guess to answer your question, this invest, chances are, will not affect the States. And then we have Sally we're dealing with now. We were just looking at the different ensembles of these models. We have the Canadian, the European, and the GFS. And honestly, none of them as of right now show much going on in the Gulf, but we can't rely on that as a, as nothing to worry about, that nothing's going to happen. But as of right now, the most concerning thing that I'm seeing for the Atlantic Ocean is Hurricane Teddy right now that is making its way north of the Leeward Lesser Antilles. So it doesn't look like this storm's going to go into the Gulf. So the Gulf might actually have a break, but we saw how quickly Sally formed in the Bahamas out of nowhere. So that situation could happen at any time in the Gulf. The wind shear is constantly changing, but yeah, the high pressure in the Atlantic and a mix of those different pressures are keeping things away. But this Teddy storm has really got me concerned for the near future. All right, let's see. I'm going to go on radar scope one more time, and then we're going to cut this live stream, and I will jump on in a little bit. I appreciate every one of you that have been on here watching for the last couple hours as we're tracking Hurricane Sally as it makes its way into the Gulf states now. Landfall was in Alabama. Alabama landfall. And our last landfall was Laura in western Louisiana. We almost had another New Orleans hurricane. Thank God we didn't. We now have strong thunderstorm warnings in Tallahassee up into Georgia, which is where most of this weather is moving now into the Georgia area. The big peel-offs are actually causing storms in South Carolina. Get over to the reflectivity chart. Very good. Yes, Sam, it's always important to pay attention to that area because that's where a lot of stuff forms. And yes, it's been 2 years, yep. All right, we'll go over radar scope real quick, and then we'll wrap this up, and I will see you guys in a little bit. Once again, thank you for joining the stream. I appreciate each and every one of you. And if you have not already, please like, share, and subscribe. Every little bit helps the channel, and I enjoy putting this info out to you on a daily basis. We got Pensacola getting hit pretty hard right now with these wind bands. We got Warrington in there as well. And just for the future, these aren't predictions I'm making, but keep an eye out for the tornado warnings that are going to be going on in the northeast quadrant of this storm. Now that it has made landfall, we're going to start seeing those spins coming out in the southeastern states, also involving Georgia. So don't be surprised to see tornado warnings in the southwest area of Georgia and obviously the panhandle of Florida. And not only that, but Alabama as well, as the storm is moving up towards Montgomery as well. All right, my friends, thank you so much once again. This was a good live stream. I'm going to start doing this more and more when we have storms that are about to make landfall. Good thing we got up early this morning. I thought it would be an afternoon landfall, but we picked up speed. We're now moving at about 5 miles an hour north, and the eye wall is just about completely over land at this time. Any questions or concerns, please leave in the comments section below once this video is posted. And Buckshot, no problem, buddy, anytime, and I will talk to you all very soon. Much appreciated. I'll be putting on the display screen for a second, and then we'll be ending the stream. So thank you all very much. Have a great day. I'll be on in a little bit. Bye-bye.
Hurricane Center. Issued at 4:54 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. At 4 a.m. Central Daylight Time, or 0900 UTC, the center of the eye of Hurricane Sally was located in Air Force Reserve Hurricane Hunter aircraft and NOAA Doppler weather radars near latitude 30.1 north, longitude 87.7 west. Sally is moving toward the north-northeast near 3 miles an hour, 6 kilometers per hour. A north-northeastward to northeastward motion at a slightly faster forward speed is expected later today and tonight, followed by a faster northeastward motion on Thursday. On the forecast track, the center of Sally will approach